All right, welcome everyone to our February 7th North Middlesex Council meeting. Roll call, everyone is present. Disclose your pecuniary interest. If you have any, please forward it to our clerk. Minutes of the previous meeting, any errors or omissions, business arising from those minutes? From the January 17th meeting? Seeing none, we need a motion to approve. Councillor Daigle, Councillor Nerda, all in favor? Carried, thank you. At this time, we need to have a motion to adjourn to proceed to public meeting, including committee of adjustment. Councillor Irwin, Deputy Mayor Hodgins, all in favor? Carried, thank you. And so our first item of business, 6 o'clock, notice of public meeting to consider application MV-1-2024 and MV-2-2024 located at the old 132 Old Mill Street. I believe our applicants are not attending this event, so at this time, Abby, go ahead. Who's speaking? Abby, are you doing this? Okay.
Thank you, Your Honor. So the purpose and effect of application MV-1-2024 is to seek relief from the North Middlesex zoning bylaw in order to satisfy conditions of consent B14-2023 for the retained parcel. The following variances are proposed. So the first one, the applicants are requesting a minimum lot area of 418 square meters, whereas the R1 zone requires a minimum lot area of 460 square meters. The second variance being requested is a front yard setback of 4.7 meters to the existing dwelling, whereas the R1 zone requires a minimum front yard setback of 6 meters. The purpose and effect of application MV-2-2024 is to seek relief from the North Middlesex zoning bylaw, also in order to satisfy conditions of consent B14-2023 for the severed parcel. So the following variance is proposed. They are requesting a minimum lot area of 418 square meters, whereas the R1 zone requires a minimum lot area of 460 meters. The subject lands are located on the northeast corner of Old Mill Street and George Street within the urban settlement area of Elsa Craig. The subject lands are within the residential area land use designation of the North Middlesex official plan and are zoned R1 within the North Middlesex zoning bylaw. Surrounding uses are predominantly residential in nature. As council may recall, the applicants are not proposing to develop the lands to be severed at this time. So I have evaluated the application against the 4 tests under the Planning Act, and I am satisfied that each test has been met for the reasons outlined in my report. In terms of agency comments received, the county engineer advised no comments, and the manager of infrastructure and operations for the municipality provided several comments that are capable of being addressed through the development agreement that is required as part of the conditionally approved consent. In terms of comments received from the public, none were received prior to the preparation of my report. It is therefore my recommendation that the application be approved, subject to the reasons outlined in my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Abby. At this time, I invite anyone from the public who have comment on this application. Seeing none, committee, is there questions, comments on this application? None. We have a recommendation in front of you. I don't think I need to read it. It's in writing. Moved by Councillor Daigle, seconded by Councillor Nerda. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Our next item is a public meeting to application B1-2024 located at 25976 King Street. And I believe that's Stephen and Paula Morrison. Are they here? Would you like to come up? Have your time. Oh. Thank you. All right, Abby, go ahead.
Thank you. So the purpose of the subject consent application is to create one new residential lot along King Street from a property known municipally as 25976 King Street within the Hamlet settlement area of Carlisle. The subject lands are located on the east side of King Street, north of Bruce Street, and south of Neil Street within Carlisle, and are approximately 3,035 square meters in size. The applicant is proposing to create a residential infill lot by way of consent for the purpose of constructing 2 future single detached dwellings, one on the severed lot and one on the retained lot. The lands proposed to be severed would have a frontage of about 30 meters and a lot area of about 1,500 meters squared and contain a detached accessory building and do not have connection to municipal water or a private sanitary system. But they do have an existing access off of King Street. The lands to be retained would have a frontage of 30 meters, a lot area of about 1,500 meters squared, and they contain a single detached dwelling and a detached accessory building, a municipal water connection, and a private sanitary system, and they also have an existing access off of King Street. The subject lands are within the Hamlet Settlement Area land use designation of the North Middlesex Official Plan and are zoned Hamlet residential within the North Middlesex zoning bylaw. Surrounding uses are residential in nature. So the provincial policy statement, county official plan, and the municipality's official plan generally permit residential lot creation within settlement areas subject to servicing and compatibility. The subject lands, again, are located within the settlement area of Carlisle, which is serviced by municipal water and privately owned septic systems. The subject lands have frontage along King Street, which is a year-round maintained public road. The proposal is considered infilling as the subject lands are located within the existing built-up area of the hamlet. Staff are of the opinion that the proposed area of the severed and retained lands is appropriate for the use of the lands, which is residential in nature. So provisions of road access, connection to municipal water services, stormwater management, lot grading, and other standard development obligations are capable of being addressed through a development agreement as per the conditions of the consent. So in conclusion, staff are of the opinion that the proposed development is appropriate, is consistent with the provincial policy statement, and in conformity with the county and North Middlesex official plans. In terms of agency comments received, the Asable Bayfield Conservation Authority had no concerns. County engineer had no concerns. And then the manager of infrastructure and operations for the municipality provided several comments related to water, roads, drainage, stormwater, and wastewater as outlined in my report. No comments were received from the public prior to the preparation of my report. So based on the foregoing, it is my recommendation that application for consent B1 2024 be granted, subject to the conditions outlined in my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Abby. At this time, Stephen, is there anything you'd like to add? Oh. Sorry.
Not really. We're just trying to, the house that's there now is in very, very poor shape and needs to be tore down, and the lot was big enough to make 2, and that's just kind of what our thought was.
Okay. All right, thank you. There's no written submissions, so once again, is there any comments from the public at this time on this application? Seeing none, committee, Councillor Irwin. Oh, did you have a question, Councillor Cornelison?
I do have a question.
Okay.
I mean, thank you. My question is for Abby, and it's under conditions number 10, it refers to the owner entering the development agreement with the municipality. Is that the owner of the lot after it's sold or the current owner?
So thank you for your question. That would be the current owner. However, we do have the ability to add specific requirements into the development agreement that would apply to the future owner of the severed parcel.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Seeing none, a motion to approve. Councillor Irwin, second by Councillor Keough. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Thank you. Our next application is for B2-2024, located at 1069 West Corners Drive. And I think we have Paul. You're the only one here tonight for this application? Oh, come on up. Sorry. Is it Joris?
Yes, thank you,
Joris?
Worship.
Thank you. Sorry.
Joris, the
Sorry.
principal of the owner of the properties here
Yes.
as well.
Okay, thank you. Abby, as soon as you're ready.
Thank you. So the purpose and effect of the subject application is to sever a parcel of land consisting of approximately 40.2 hectares from an existing farm parcel consisting of 80.9 hectares, known municipally as 1069 West Porter Drive. The subject lands are located on the southeast corner of West Corner Drive and Prance Road and are known municipally as 1069 West Corner Drive. The applicant is seeking consent approval to sever a farm parcel to reverse a merger of the lands. So the land to be severed would have a frontage of approximately 355 meters along West Corner Drive and be approximately 40.2 hectares in size. The lands to be severed are used for agricultural purposes in the form of field crop production and contain no structures. The lands are privately serviced and do not have access onto West Corner Drive. Or I guess there would be no services on the land, sorry, let me correct that. The land to be retained would have a frontage of 455 meters along West Corner Drive and be approximately 40.2 hectares in size. The lands to be retained contain a single detached dwelling, several outbuildings, 11 grain bins, and 8 smaller feed bins, 3 barns, a microfit solar panel, and agricultural land in field crop production. The lands are privately serviced and have 2 existing accesses off of West Corner Drive. The subject lands are designated agricultural within the North Middlesex official plan and are zoned general agricultural and environmental protection within the North Middlesex zoning bylaw. Surrounding land uses are agricultural in nature. So the provincial policy statement, the county official plan, and the North Middlesex official plan generally permit lot creation in agricultural areas for agricultural purposes where the lots are of a size sufficiently large to maintain productive and viable farm units. The minimum lot size requirement, as outlined in both the county and North Middlesex official plan, is about 40 hectares. The county official plan also requires compliance with the minimum distance separation formula. The lands to be retained contain 3 barns that are used for livestock agriculture and would therefore trigger an MDS calculation as per OMAFRA's minimum distance separation document. So guideline number 8 of that document speaks to the MDS requirements for lot creation and specifically to those that apply for situations where a farm split is being contemplated. Guideline number 41 provides details with regards to how the MDS setbacks that are required by guideline 8 are to be implemented. So essentially, it requires for any new lot that is vacant and greater than 1 hectare in size, that a hypothetical building envelope be determined for that parcel. As I previously mentioned, the purpose of the subject consent is to sever a parcel of land to reverse an inadvertent lot merger. No change of use is being proposed for the severed or retained lands. The applicants have indicated that they do not intend to construct a single detached dwelling on the severed lot and will continue to use the land in its entirety for field crop production. While the MDS setbacks to the new lot line will continue to apply, the applicants will be required to obtain a zoning bylaw amendment that will prohibit future residential uses on the severed lands unless the owner is able to demonstrate MDS compliance for the new single detached dwelling. So the proposed lot line is intended to create 2 parcels with identical lot areas so as not to create an undersized farm parcel. However, staff are recommending that the lot line be straightened and moved to the east 30 meters to ensure that the existing livestock barn is wholly contained on the severed lot or the retained lots. Both the severed and retained parcels are zoned A1 and EP, and the North Middlesex zoning bylaw states that where a lot contains more than 1 zone category, each portion will be evaluated by its own zoning standards for lot area and frontage and some of the other regulations as well. So as part of the conditions of consent, staff recommend that the zoning bylaw amendment account for the undersized A1 zone portion of the severed and retained lands, which is due to the EP zone that kind of traverses the rear of this property. So in all, staff are satisfied that the size and configuration of the proposed lots will not negatively impact the ability to farm the lands, and the flexibility to adapt to future farming practices will not be compromised. So staff are in a position to support the proposed consent application as it will result in parcels that meet or exceed the minimum standards set out in the policy documents. In terms of agency comments received, the county engineer had no concerns. Building and bylaw recommended a condition that confirms compliance with MDS. And the manager of infrastructure and operations provided several comments, which are outlined in my report. At the time of the preparation of my report, I had received no written comments from members of the public. So based on the foregoing, it is my recommendation that application for consent B2 2024 be granted subject to the conditions in my report. Thank you.
Thanks, Abby. Paul, do you have comments on this as well?
Thank you, Worship. I don't have a lot of comments, and I thank Abby, the planner, for her assistance in getting us to this point. I did just want to flag, I understand from my client that there is an existing entryway that will be on the severed portion, but I understand the condition being there, and in the past, sometimes I've just spoken to the person in charge at North Middlesex, and they assess whether we need to do a whole new entrance or if there's anything that needs to be done to the existing one. So that would be the plan there. And as mentioned, the intention is just to re-separate these properties that were inadvertently merged to title because they are held by the same person. And it's a part of it is tax or estate planning and tax issues related to that. And I've seen it in different municipalities, different rules about whether we can submit the zoning application before we have the sketch completed. Ideally, we'd like to be able to submit the zoning application immediately so we can move this forward, trying to fall within fiscal years. So I don't know whether the planner has any comments on that, but that would be my own thought.
Okay, thank you. Abby, does you respond to that?
Yeah, thanks. So currently we do require that we have the 33R number so that we're able to legally describe the lands for the purposes of the zoning bylaw amendment. Otherwise, like, we can bring it forward for 2 readings, but we've kind of moved away from doing that just due to the planning fee refund provisions in the Planning Act.
No, I understand. I've encountered that issue before, so that doesn't shock me. I just thought I'd inquire if there's has to be 2 readings. It doesn't really move any faster anyway.
Right. Okay. That's not my phone. That's all I care. So there's no written submissions. Is there any comments from the public on this application? Seeing none, the committee? Questions on the committee? I have just a comment to it. Every time I see these come forward, I don't like them because people have to spend money that they shouldn't have to spend money on. It shouldn't be happening as it is. And we've talked about this at AMO and different places, and hopefully it gets corrected because I agree, there's money spent that shouldn't have to be spent.
Yes, I agree. And there have actually been some useful amendments to the Planning Act recently. Unfortunately, none of them are trying to
Not to this.
deal with
No,
this issue.
not-
Yeah,
Hopefully that does get done though, to
I
save,
agreed.
to spend money. No other questions or comments? We have a recommendation to grant this application. Deputy Mayor Hodgins, Councillor Daigle, all in favor? Carried. Thank you.
Thank you, Council.
Our next application is for a notice of public meeting for application 39T-NM 2303, and that is the Lurie Planum subdivision for information. And do we have somebody coming in on Zoom? Okay, so we can still get him in on Zoom. Okay. And I think it's Matt Litwinchuk. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay, so we have him here. So I would remind if anybody wants to come up for public comments, just to give your name when you come up to the chair. And just go ahead, Abby.
Thank you. So the purpose of this report is to provide council with preliminary information on an application for a plan of subdivision for the subject lands municipally known as 34707 Lurie Road. A recommendation will be given to council at a later meeting after feedback from the public meeting and the agency and ministry circulation has been received and taken into consideration. So the purpose and effect of the proposed draft plan of subdivision is to create 7 lots for single detached dwellings, which would be accessed from Asable Drive and Lurie Road. The draft plan of subdivision has been attached for information. In addition to the applications and the proposed draft plan, the submission included the following supporting documents. So there was a planning justification report, a servicing capability study, transportation impact brief, and a nitrate impact assessment. So the subject lands are a 6.7 hectare parcel located on the northwest corner of Asable Drive and Lurie Road within the hamlet of Lurie. The lands are vacant of any buildings and structures. The subject lands are designated hamlet settlement area within the North Middlesex official plan, and the subject lands are zoned hamlet residential within the North Middlesex zoning bylaw. So my report provides a background on the applicable provincial, county, and local policy, which generally direct new residential development to existing settlement areas where full or partial municipal services are available. The policy documents encourage a wide variety of housing by type, size, and timing. Specific to the North Middlesex official plan, the hamlet settlement area policies provide that approval for the development of new lots above 5 new lots within or expanding an existing hamlet settlement area from the date of the approval of the official plan shall be supported by a settlement capability study, which was included in the servicing capability study that was submitted in support of the subject application. The general housing policies provide that intensification and redevelopment within the settlement areas will be encouraged to provide a greater mix and balance of residential housing types. And that the municipality will be guided by municipal service, environmental, and transportation issues in its consideration of such opportunities. So neighborhood compatibility will also be considered relative to the physical characteristics and site design of intensification proposals. Notice of the application has been circulated to agencies as well as property owners in accordance with the requirements of the Planning Act. And in terms of agency comments received, the Asable Bayfield Conservation Authority indicated no concerns. Bell Canada, Canada Post, Hydro One, and Enbridge Gas submitted standard comments for plans of subdivision, and those are outlined in my report. The Thames Valley District School Board indicated that they had no concerns. County of Middlesex Emergency Services requested a number of conditions as outlined in my report, as did the county engineer. And then the North Middlesex Manager of Infrastructure and Operations has also provided a number of comments related to documents to be submitted for review and approval, and those are also outlined in my report. In terms of public comments, so I had none that were received prior to the preparation of my report. However, staff subsequently received the following written submissions. So Julie and Andrew Canton submitted a letter citing concerns related to a matter being considered under the Drainage Act, as well as their preference for no further development within the hamlet area. Amber McLean and Mike Sorton shared similar concerns related to the matter being considered under the Drainage Act, as well as concerns relating to light pollution and more specifically exterior lighting on the homes and outbuildings to be built within the proposed development. So as I previously mentioned, a more detailed planning analysis as well as a recommendation will be provided to council at a subsequent meeting after all comments received from this public meeting, as well as the agency and ministry circulation have been taken into consideration. Thank you.
Thank you, Abby. At this time, Matt, do you have anything you'd like to add from the applicant side?
Good evening, members of council. My name is Matt Lewinchuk. I'm a land use planner with Zelenka Priamo, and we're the planning consultants for the applicant and this draft plan of subdivision to facilitate, as Abby said, the development of 7 lots for single detached dwellings. Abby's done a great job with her presentation, and we just want to note that we do not have a comprehensive presentation today, but of course, the purpose of this statutory public meeting is to hear from members of the public with respect to the proposed development. It's our understanding, as Abby mentioned, there's only been a couple of comments to date. We've had an opportunity to carefully review staff's report, and we note that staff are recommending the draft plan be taken in principle. We hope for a positive endorsement when this proposal comes to council. If there are any further questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Okay, thank you, Matt. At this time, you've already made mention of, I think, council, you've all got a copy of those written submissions, correct? Everyone's had those? Okay, comments from the public on this application? If you'd like to come forward, sir. I think the microphone's already on, so you'd submit your name and just.
My name is Matt White. I'm a resident of 34714 Lurie Road. Your worship and council members, thank you very much for giving us the opportunity to present our case regarding the proposed subdivision in Lurie. To set the record straight, I'm not a NIMBY, as we would call them in England, not in my backyard. Lurie actually is a great little community. I moved to Lurie about 6 years ago, looking for a rural lifestyle. At no time did I believe when I moved to Lurie that there would be a increase in the size of the hamlet. I have 2 objections to this. First of all, the fabric of Lurie. People get along. Everybody seems to know each other. We say hi when we walk our dogs. We like to feel that there is a small community out there. This whole subdivision basically blindsided the majority of the residents in Lurie. We did not have any idea that this was happening. And the good folks here, we do not want to fall out with them whatsoever. We want to maintain the fabric of our small community. But in hindsight, the delivery of this has been handled very badly. It's going to divide our little community. Had these good folks literally come door to door, and as you can see from the pictorial, there ain't many, and just came to say, hi, we're thinking of doing this. Do you have any objections? And unfortunately, that was not done. So everybody now has put up a defensive guard around this potential subdivision. So if the subdivision was to go forward, I do believe that some of the residents in Lurie are looking at moving at significant cost to them. Myself personally, I would consider moving because again, it's ruining the fabric of the little community that I went into. But I do understand the need for advancement. I do understand the needs for homes in Ontario. I myself personally are involved in very large construction projects from New York City to Calgary, Alberta. So I make my livelihood on construction. However, the need for affordable homes in this country is not going to be satisfied by the development in Lurie. The development in Lurie is purely for profit exercise. And that brings me on to my second point. About 7 years ago, again, when I moved into Lurie, my welcome to Middlesex County was a nice bill to do with drainage. So there were some drainage improvements about 7 years ago. And I thought, you know what? That's an improvement to the infrastructure. I just had some very bad timing. I paid it and I moved on with my life. My understanding now is the work required to accommodate this new subdivision will require more drainage works. Now that drainage works, again, is going to be billed to the residents of Lurie, probably through a direct tax improvement, which our understanding may be somewhere in the region of $1,500, maybe as much as $2,000. we're not going to see any benefit. You know, the folks that are developing that area, yes, they'll probably see some financial benefit, but we as residents, that's another $2,000 potentially at the most out of our pockets. And as you said, Your Honor, you don't like to see money being spent when it's really not necessary. You know, one of my neighbors, Pat White, who shares the same last name as me, purely coincidental. She's a retired nurse. She lost her husband a couple of years ago. I don't know about her finances, but I know she's probably struggling. So a bill like that out the blue is probably going to hurt her. And then her neighbor, there's an old lady that lives in that property. She's blind. Her husband just went into a nursing home, and her daughter suffers with a disability, and she's also in a home. You know, those poor folks, we never see them. Obviously, money is tight for them just from optics, and I wouldn't want to be in their position when they see a bill, potentially called a direct tax improvement, arrive on their doorstep. This is just a very unfortunate situation. I'm sure the intent here is very good, but again, had it been handled differently with the small community that we're in, I think there may be overwhelming support for it. But right now, personally, I'm objecting to it because I don't think it's been handled in the proper way. And I don't want to pay potentially $2,000 out of my own pocket to help somebody else make some money. I mean, I would propose an amendment to the motion where essentially the increase in property taxes, which North Middlesex will likely levy against the improvements to those lots, is paid back to the residents of Lurie who have had to pay a direct tax improvement fee. That is just an amendment proposition I would like to put forward. Again, I understand we probably can't stop this, but if we have to pay out of our own pocket, I would propose that on the next tax year, when North Middlesex is collecting taxes from that new subdivision or the owners of the lots, that extra money is channeled back into a tax credit for the residents who have paid this money, therefore equaling it out. But again, we don't want to divide our little community. We have a great community, as I say. But again, this proposition that has been made, honestly, has divided our community. And this has been happening, well, this has been ongoing now for several months. And I just wish it had been handled differently. So thank you, Your Honor. Thank you, council members, for hearing me out. I'm rather nervous. I'm just recovering from a triple heart bypass, so my heart is fluttering a little bit. But I certainly appreciate the time that you've given us tonight. Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
I would ask, Matt, do you have any response to that? Because I think it's a legitimate concern about the cost to the neighboring taxpayers, about the cost of drainage. Do you have a comment to that?
Yeah, absolutely. I just want to thank the neighbor for coming out and taking time out of their day to provide comments. That's what this is all about. So with respect to this drainage relocation, of course, it is considered that the relocation of the drain will actually serve to improve drainage in the area. Currently, as it stands, of course, it could be a lot better. Furthermore, it is worth mentioning that as per the municipality, the costs for this drainage relocation are going to be completely on the applicant. So that would be on the developer. So we don't believe that any other cost would be put on any neighbors in the area. So no cost to neighbors in the area. Furthermore, with respect to the anticipation that Leary would not expand as a hamlet, as per the municipal OP, the lands are designated as hamlet residential areas. So residential development in the form that is proposed is contemplated here. It is the planned vision of this community as set out by the municipal OP.
Okay, thank you. I just want to clarify that comment. You had said there's no cost from drainage cost to the neighbors?
Correct.
Okay,
This development is completely developer led.
okay, thank you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Other comments from the public on this application? Anyone else like to speak on this? Come on up, sir, and come on up, these two, and just give your name, please, and
How do I follow that? Hi, I'm Julie Canton. We reside at 34684 Lurie Road, and we also own the vacant lot beside us. It's a residential lot at 34688. We've resided there for almost 10 years now, and we, from past meetings, we weren't able to go because it was during the week at 9 a.m. I'm surprised that anybody was able to go to that meeting. But anyways, I just wanted to make sure, because as for the last meeting, we were told that we may have been able, we were told that we would have to pay for some of the costs. And that was just something that I had up in my write-up, that we did not want to be responsible for the cost of rerouting the drain. And we also want to ensure that where the Mawson Erskine Drain Branch B, the first proposal that was set out was to be rerouted onto our second residential lot at 34688 on Lurie Road. And we want to ensure that it does not hinder future development opportunities on that second lot if we were to sell or build on that lot. So if there were a drain to go through it or partially on it, we just wanted to make sure that it wasn't going to hinder future development for our own. What are you going to say?
Yeah, so is there a way of zooming in on your picture, your image of the map there? At 34688, almost in the center of that frontage of the property, that's where the drain connects in.
See if we can get that bigger.
Sorry.
That's not bigger.
Yeah, we're almost, so we're almost in the center of that frontage.
Okay.
Yep. The circle. So where the drain ties in, I'm not exactly sure as to where the drain continues from there. So on the drawing that we have in an email, it's a blue line going to the catch basin, but we're not sure where it continues from there. So if it goes across our properties to the south, and then goes down the road there, or if it goes straight back towards Denny's field there.
Okay,
So we're just looking for a little bit more clarity.
okay, who wants to approach that? I would, Jaden.
I can,
Oh, Matt, go ahead.
yeah, I can quickly provide some clarity on that.
Okay.
As per our drawings, the drain is supposed to run only along the west side of Leary and then west on Osable. So what's going to happen is it's going to go into the Mawson property, 34707, through one of the proposed lots and then down to Osable. So it really there is no connection to any neighboring properties.
Okay, thank you. So you said it's going to run on the west side, correct?
Yep, so down the west side of Leary there,
Yep.
into the site and down Osable.
Okay. Jaden?
That's helpful.
Maybe Jaden can.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, just want to clarify, our Dobbin Engineering Inc. is currently working on this, and they haven't prepared a draft report yet. So it's preliminary to say which side it's on. I'm just looking at the meeting notes here. So it hasn't been determined yet. I know they were looking at the west side and that was looking more likely, but it is, that's not determined yet. They're still working through that process.
Okay, so it's still in process at this point. Okay, thank you. Thank you.
No, it's good. I'm glad that we had the opportunity to come. And obviously, as stated in the letters that we all said, we definitely have no qualms at all with any of our neighbors in Lurie, especially Mawson's. We have no qualms whatsoever. If I was in your spot, I'd do the same thing. But obviously with 4 young children, we've been there for 10 years. And obviously if we could have a last say, obviously we wouldn't want more neighbors. And obviously Lurie Road is very quiet. So our kids learned how to ride their bikes on Lurie Road. So obviously if we had a choice, we would say, I don't want more neighbors, but obviously if this is what it comes to, but yeah, so any sort of notifications from here on out, if we find more information, I would totally love to learn about it as the days go on. Thanks.
Okay. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Is there any more public comments on this application? Any more public comments in this time? Seeing none, Council Keel.
Thank you, Mayor Rupp. Jaden, any idea when that report for the drainage might be in place so that could maybe put neighbors' minds at rest?
Yeah, through the mayor, we're expecting the draft report in the next couple weeks.
Thank you.
Councilor Irwin?
Thank you, Your Worship. I have 2 comments or questions. One is just to clarify, and I think I got the answer. I would like clarification. Any drainage work on this property would not be a cost to existing neighbors, the existing community. Is that correct? Did I hear that correct?
Matt?
That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
My second comment goes back to the planner's report. The planner was talking about neighborhood compatibility in her report. And there was one of the respondents talked about outdoor lighting and light pollution. Would that be dealt with in terms of neighborhood compatibility?
So at this time, I don't believe that we have anything that speaks specifically to lighting in the municipality's planning documents. That is something that could be considered through a future review of the municipality's planning documents. But given that this is a standalone application for a plan of subdivision, meaning that there's no associated zoning bylaw amendment attached to it, it's a little bit difficult for us to consider that through this subject application specifically. Thank you.
Just a second. Ashley, go ahead.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'd just like to cite that the municipality does not have an illumination bylaw at the time, but we currently address concerns with lighting and between neighbors through our public nuisance bylaw. And so it would be potentially covered under that.
Jaden, were you going to speak to this as well? Do you have something?
Yes, thank you. Through you. Just to add to I think the main concern around the cost of the drainage works. On page 9 of the planner's report, it does include the comments from the Infrastructure and Operations Department, and there was a comment there that prior to final approval, the owner shall address all matters pertaining to the proposed relocation of the existing municipal drain, which currently runs through the property, to be developed to the satisfaction of the municipality, and that the owner shall be responsible for all costs associated with the municipal drain relocation. So that was a comment we put forward, and we'd expect that to be carried into the subdivision agreement.
Perfect. Thank you. All right, Councilor Canellison.
Thank you, Mayor Rob. I guess my question is for the developer, maybe perhaps Matt. What's the time frame for this project to begin?
We don't have a we don't have a direct timeline at this stage. I could also, my colleague Matt Campbell's partner of Zelinka Priamo is also on this call right now, if he wanted to perhaps speak to that. I don't know if he has speaking ability in this meeting, although he should be in the Zoom call.
Good evening, Council. It's Matt Campbell here. Can you hear me?
Yes. Yep.
Wonderful. Thanks to my colleague Matt for passing that over. So Matt is absolutely correct. There's no defined timeline for this. In this type of development scenario, we typically see site development, actual work proceeding on the ground, probably within a year of the draft approval of the subdivision, if the county sees to it that that's what the county would like to do with it. There's quite a while, and there's a lot of work that has to be taken into account, engineering, drainage, so on and so forth, that has to be done well in advance before any soil actually gets moved. So I would estimate, a year, and that's probably on the shorter time frame. Usually it's a little bit longer than that, but I know that there's everyone has pushes to get things done quicker. So probably plus or minus a year.
Thank you.
Okay, Councilor Irwin, you had a follow-up?
Yes, Your Worship, and that just follows the last comment. We have a number of members of the community here this evening. I think they'd like to hear the process going forward, timelines, next meetings, etc. So they have it in their schedule, what the next steps will be. So if we could just take a moment, either our planner or the developer's planner, to talk about the next steps and timelines for the people of the community.
Okay, I would think that's up to the developer for timelines, or Abby, do you want to speak to that?
Sure, I'm happy to.
Okay.
So essentially, what we were planning to do with this subject application was bring forward a recommendation report at the March council meeting. So subsequent to that, and pending on this council's recommendation, it will then be forwarded to the County of Middlesex for the ultimate draft plan approval, which is generally subject to several conditions. And members of the public are able to request notice of that decision from the county. So, yeah,
And so that would be on March 6th,
that's
because
correct.
that's our planning meeting.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Thank you. Anything else on that, Councilor Irwin? Good. Any other comments, questions? Councilor Daigle?
If we're looking at doing that on March 6th, I'd like to see the engineering report from Dobbin here at the same time.
Aiden, is that possible?
Through your worship, I know the next step is the draft report, which I think then there would be an informal meeting with all the landowners. But I just have to confirm that with Dobbin when that will be available and how that aligns with the timeline.
Okay. All right, so tonight we're here it's strictly for information. Receive this for information. And I know this is the first time it's come before council as well. Council hasn't seen this application. I want to thank everyone from the public on that. And I hope they got clarification from the developer on the concerns that they had. And I understand when there's only 13 houses in a community and you're adding 7. But just a comment I would make that there was 2 houses put really close to me that I thought, no way they're putting those in. There's not enough room. And I do have 2 new good neighbors on it. So I just want to make that comment to it. That it isn't hopefully it works out well. So if there's nothing else, we have a recommendation to receive this for information. Councilor Daigle, Councilor Nerda, all in favor? Carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Matt. Our final application is a notice of public meeting for application ZBA-3-2024 located at 29463 Coldstream Road. And Paul, I believe you're by yourself this time, right?
Actually, your worship, the owner, Hans Kleeman, is here. It's a relatively
wants or whatever,
informal
okay.
application. I don't know if we need it. He's welcome to come
If
up, but
he wants to add something after, he certainly can come forward and add it.
sounds
Go
good.
ahead. Go ahead, Abby.
Thank you, Your Honor. So the purpose and effect of the subject application is to implement a condition of consent associated with consent B8/2023, which conditionally severed a lot with an area of approximately 39.73 hectares in order to accommodate the disposal of a surplus farm dwelling. So the application proposes to rezone the severed lot of consent B8/2023 from the general agricultural A1 zone to the agricultural small holding exception AG1 zone to recognize the residential use of lands. The application also proposes to rezone the retained lands of consent B8/2023 from the general agricultural A1 zone to the general agricultural exception A1-103 zone to prohibit the establishment of new dwellings on the remnant farms. So the lands to be severed contain agricultural outbuildings to be removed and agricultural lands in crop production. No, that's the lands to be retained, sorry. And the lands to be severed. Okay, so sorry. I just need to correct myself here. So the lands to be severed contain a single detached dwelling, an accessory building, a grain silo, and are serviced by municipal water and private septic. And they have existing access off of Coldstream Road. And then the lands to be retained contain agricultural outbuildings to be removed and agricultural lands in crop production. So the subject lands are designated agricultural within the North Middlesex official plan and contain hazard lands as per Schedule A of the North Middlesex official plan and woodlands as per Schedule C of the North Middlesex official plan. The subject lands are zoned general agricultural A1 within the North Middlesex zoning bylaw, and a portion of these lands are regulated by the Asable Bayfield Conservation Authority. So the provincial policy statement, the county official plan, and the municipality's official plan generally permit lot creation in agricultural areas to dispose of a dwelling surplus to a farming operation as a result of farm consolidation, subject to evaluation criteria. So the subject rezoning was requested in accordance with section 6.2 D3 of the North Middlesex official plan. And it is noted that all other criteria from section 6.2 D has been met or is capable of being met through the conditions of the conditionally approved consent. So in all, staff are satisfied that the application of the agricultural smallholding AG1 zone is appropriate to recognize the residential use of the lands to be severed, and that the application of the general agricultural exception A1-103 zone prohibit the establishment of new dwellings on the remnant farm parcel is appropriate. And as such, staff are supportive of the proposed zone changes. In terms of agency circulation, the manager of infrastructure and operations, as well as the county engineer, had no comments. At the time of writing the subject report, no comments or concerns were received from the public. So based on the foregoing, it is my recommendation that the subject application be approved for the reasons outlined in my report. Thank you.
Thanks, Abby. Paul?
Thank you, your worship. I have no comments. I agree with.
No comments at this time? Okay, is there any asking, there's no written comments? Is there anyone from the public that wants to speak on this application? Seeing no one, council, questions, comments? Yep, Mayor Hodgins?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a question to some of I'm just gonna read it here again. The lands to be retained containing a single detached dwelling, fine, accessory building, fine, a green silo. And are serviced by municipal water. Okay. Why are we keeping the green silo? Yeah, in
I believe
past,
it.
we've asked for things to be taken down. And I'm thinking it's probably a steel granary. I'm not sure because the map I got, the 911 number is right over the thing and I can't just see the whole picture. So I'm just questioning.
I believe it has been taken down, right? It has been removed. It's just an old photo. Absolutely.
Okay, so it's removed. Any other questions, comments from? That was it? No other questions? We have a recommendation to approve this application. Moved by Councillor Canellison, second by Councillor Nerda. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, your worship. Thank you,
you.
council. Those are my matters.
Just before we're done with our planning for this evening, but I just want to say thank you to Abby for a short time that you've been here, but the work you've done on all of these grants. And at the same time, I want to introduce Ashley. I don't know if everybody had the opportunity to meet Ashley. She'll be doing our planning going forward. I believe, Abby, you will be working on official plan.
Yeah, that's correct. So I'm going to be moving back to my policy focus role, but it does sound like I will be back later this year to get the ball rolling on the official plan review that's upcoming.
Okay. Yes. Councillor Canellison.
I do have one question. That is, Ashley, you continue to be here on Tuesdays for with the public and address any questions they may have?
Great question.
Thank you. So the days are going to be Wednesday going forward, but I'll also be here Thursdays as well to start. So I'll be here 2 days instead of just one.
So that's Wednesdays and Thursdays, not
Yes.
Tuesdays.
Yes, correct.
Okay, because I told somebody yesterday you're going to be here Tuesday. I'll have to change that. Thank you.
Yes.
But that was a great question. That was a great comment. But thank you very much, Abby, and look forward to working. Thank you. All right, our next is the start of our department reports. And I believe our first one up is, oh, sir, we need a motion to go out of Committee of Adjustment and rejoin regular meeting. Councillor Daigle, Councillor Nerda, all in favor? Carried. Thank you. Our first item is Arnie's coming in person here to do the report. That's the first one. And your second one, I believe, is on the agreement. Correct? The floor is yours when you're ready, Arnie.
Always lose the crowd. I do. I guess. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Thanks for having me today. I have 2 reports to take to Council today for your consideration. My first report is a 4th quarter and year-end report to give Council an idea of building permit activity that we've seen for 2023. So I'll briefly step Council through the report. And first start by saying that 2023 was actually a very decent year considering what we've seen in the Southwest region. Some municipalities were hit very heavily with residential decline. Middlesex Center being one, Luca Midolph as well. We saw a great reduction in housing starts, new dwellings. Some of our neighbors, Southwest Middlesex and Adelaide Metcalfe, actually had very good years, better than previous. So, and North Middlesex really held its own. So it's a good report, really, considering what some of our neighbors and others in Southern Ontario have seen. So, we have a slight decrease in new homes this past year of 26, down from 30 in 2022. And the cost of construction went, I believe, down from 46 million down to 42 million or 41 million. So generally, a slight reduction in cost of construction as well. But like I said, it was a very decent year. With my year-end reports, I like to highlight a couple of significant events that occurred each year. So I can say for last year, I'm happy to say that we brought a new building bylaw to council. We do building inspection for 5 municipalities, and I'm pleased to say that each of those 5 municipalities all passed the same building bylaw. That's very helpful for staff in processing building permits, things from inspections that we do, some of the policies in the department, and refund policies even. They're all in that same building bylaw. So there's a nice level of consistency we can all work from. So it's nice to have that. A year prior, we developed a consistent fee bylaw with the 3 municipalities that joined our group. So again, more consistency. It's another accomplishment. When we brought on the program, those were the two things we wanted to set forth. First is the consistent fees and a consistent building bylaw. So I'm pleased to say we achieved that. Also last year, we were a recipient of an award at AMO for our shared service agreement for the 5 municipalities. So I thought I'd throw that out one more time to council and probably let it go after this.
Oh yeah, we're doing the agreement tonight, aren't we? That's
so in my report, I have a few tables here outlining a lot of statistics. I'm not sure if council's had a chance to look at it or not, but it's a comparison. Table 1 is a comparison of permits and new dwellings and cost of construction that each municipality has seen. So you can kind of see how North Middlesex did compared to its neighbors and some totals. In total, our building division issued 962 permits. That's slightly down from 1,146 in 2022. And we approved 268 new dwellings. This is across the 5 municipalities, not just North Middlesex. 268 new dwellings in this region, down from 284 in 3 apartment buildings. It's a slight reduction, but yeah, Southwest Middlesex, Adelaide Metcalfe actually brought things up, where Middlesex Center, Luca Midolph kind of dragged it down. So all in all, it was a good year. We paid the bills and we felt part of that storm, but it was a much slower year than what we've seen previously. Table 2 is a specific breakdown for the 4th quarter, what we saw in the 4th quarter and the year-to-date numbers. And it's a breakdown with types of permits. So it's how many singles we've seen, how many garages, decks, pools, septic systems. A lot of statistics here again, what we saw in the 4th quarter, what the year-end numbers were, as well as the year-end numbers from the previous year. So you can see, how many pools we had last year compared to 2022 and the cost of each. So it's interesting information. Looked at long term for statisticians, I guess. The 3rd table is a comparison of North Middlesex permits, permit fees, development charges collected, and cost of construction over the past 6 years. So again, it's a good comparator to see how each year compares to the other. 151 permits is what we issued last year. Building permit fees brought in were 222,000. Development charges over 300,000 in DCs, and the construction value was over 41 million. Table 4 is a breakdown of new housing or new dwellings that have been created. Again, pretty consistent 2020 and 2022 with 26 and 30 those 2 years, up from the previous couple of years. So it'll be interesting to see how we do this year. High hopes for what we're going to see in Elsa Craig, for example, with the new subdivision there. Which leads to table 5. We have a breakdown. We like to break down by settlement areas. So you can see how much growth we've seen in Park Hill versus Elsa Craig and Carlisle. So it's just some nice numbers to compare at over the next few years as well. So that is my building report for the year end, and I'm open to any questions on that.
Question for council, Councilor Irwin.
Just one question, Your Worship, on table 5. The rural areas, is that any other settlement area or is that strictly rural farm community?
Yeah, generally it's the rural farm communities. So if it's outside of Park Hill, Elsa Craig, or Carlisle.
Councilor Pinelson.
Artie, my question has to do with the agricultural buildings, and I noticed that that's still the prevalent cost, if you will, or construction. Are they primarily like livestock barns, or are they dry sheds, or do you know?
Through the mayor, and shooting from the hip, I can't really say, but it's the combination of those, whether it's a drive shed or a livestock building or a grain bin or a silo, they're all lumped in that one category of farm buildings. If you want more information, I can probably get that for you, but
Well,
I haven't.
Well, I'm just curious if it's livestock buildings, because like they tend to be more costly than any other structure going up on the farm. And at 23 million in change, I'm assuming that there's a significant number of livestock buildings going up. And I'm just wondering how many that's.
Okay, yeah, and through the mayor, I could probably get some more information for you. Sometimes it's deceiving, a building report, we could have 2 permits that total 20 million. We definitely have had, agriculture has done very well over the last couple of years.
Mhm.
They haven't really been hit by the reduction that residential's been hit with. But
It's not important.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, other questions? Councilor Keel.
Thank you, Mayor Rupp. Arnie, what would the turnaround time be on an inspection? Should one be called in? I actually had a ratepayer just ask me that.
Sure, through the mayor. So the building code requires an inspection within 48 hours of notice. Our building bylaw, we've taken that down to 24 hours. And generally we meet that timeline. So what we like to is get the inspection requests in, I think by 8 o'clock the night before. So when we come into work, we know what our day is going to be that day, but we should provide you an inspection the next day on request.
Any other questions from council? I did have one, and it is on a smaller app permit, and that would be a pool. For example, do you do inspections on the fencing being done and all through that, or does that become a bylaw?
Yeah, to the mayor, great question. That's our primary inspection when it comes to pool permits, is the safety of the yard, including the fence and the gate. We do look at, how close the pool is to the property line and the pool equipment. But definitely we want to see the fence and gate there to close off a building permit. We wouldn't leave that for bylaw enforcement.
Perfect, thank you. No other questions? We have a recommendation to receive this report. Councilor Daigle, Councilor Keel, all in favor? Carried. And you're on again with the agreement.
Thank you, Mayor. My second report is something that we've come up with regarding funding. And I'd like to just identify a typo in this report. I apologize. On page 2 at the very top, we refer to, since 2001, building inspections have been provided to North Middlesex from Middlesex Center. It's 2021, not 2000. But the intent of that was where I'm going to start with. So in 2001, Middlesex Center started doing building inspections for Luke and Biddulph. And doing our inspections, we build it out based on the kilometers that we drove and the hours that we spent on files for Luke and Biddulph. And we did day-to-day hour tracking, and we sent an invoice to Luke and Biddulph quarterly. And we've been doing that for 20 years. So when we took on Southwest Middlesex, Metcalfe, and North Middlesex, we continued with that time tracking. We tracking our hours every day, and also look at the kilometers that we drive. We found that now to be fairly onerous for staff to continue time tracking hour by hour. And we also found it very predictable that what we estimate right now is about 2.5 building inspectors are used to inspect for the 4 municipalities. And so rather than time tracking our hour by hour operations, whether it's plans review, time on the telephone, or doing our inspections, we've come up with a new funding formula that we like the councils to approve. So right now our agreement refers to time tracking by hour. We like to revise that agreement to come up with a formula that we've approved or we've developed, which is based on a combination of the assessment of the municipality, So a larger municipality, North Middlesex has a higher assessment than Madrid. So a combination of the assessment of the municipality as well as the construction, the fees collected by that municipality. So it's 50% of each, where each year we'll look at the previous year and a half to see, compare the assessment and compare the fees that have been generated by each municipality. And we would juggle out the costing of 2.5 building inspectors and a small portion of the chief building official. And we would provide that to your accounting team for budgeting at the beginning of the year. So that's what we'd like to take to council today, is that new process rather than spend time and just to get it documented into the agreement.
So will that would be a huge saving on time, correct? I would think on administrative time.
It is quite a bit of administrative time for our building inspectors and also for billing and things like that.
Okay.
There's quite a bit involved.
Okay, I'll turn that over to council for questions. One comment I would make, it's just a typo on 4.1. And it says in the event that instead of that there is an increase of 10%, is that it says that 3 is increase. It should be there instead of 3.
Okay.
Okay, that's on the last paragraph. It's just a typo.
Okay. And through the mayor, if I can add one final thing. Our billing last year was $118,000 to North Middlesex. And right now we're suggesting it'd be 129 for 2024. So that's what we've done the numbers for 2024. That's what it would be, in case council is wondering.
Okay. Right. Any other questions, comments? Councilor Canellison.
Thank you, Mayor Rob. Arnie, I understand the rationale for your argument in your presentation. However, should the construction industry slow down, and then we're bearing the cost of these costs that may not be needed, how are we going to work with that?
Yeah, through the mayor, that's a great question, and there is that risk. What we've seen over the previous 5 years is that each municipality has resulted or has come up with still a decent surplus. That surplus will go into a contingency fund or reserve fund at the municipality that can be used for the slow years. So this year we're budgeting based on the previous 2 years of what we've seen for activity. Over those years, you have seen a surplus, and some funds should have gone into a building department reserve fund to take care of those light years. I'm hopeful that we won't see that. If we do, then we may be here having that conversation next year. But right now, our plan is to have it build out this way in hopes that will cover things.
I have one more question, if I may, and that's on the number 3, page 3, I believe, building services calculations for building. And if I look at the permit revenue, and I look down there and I see North Middlesex at 27% and Southwest Middlesex at 32%. And I'm just wondering how we can come to the conclusion of the costing out and your proposal.
Sorry, Mayor, just bear with me for a moment if you don't
No
mind.
problem.
Just the permit revenue is the middle graph.
Yep. So through the mayor, the middle table shows the permit revenue of each of those municipalities in 2022. Those 4 municipalities have come up with $760,000 in revenue. Below that is a percentage, I guess, of each of those municipalities. How much of that 760,000 was their contract? Is their piece of that pie? And so that's what that percentage refers to. So Southwest Middlesex had a significant permit revenue. I guess that's your 20% for North Middlesex. Oh, sorry. Southwest is 32%, North Middlesex is 27%. Yeah, if you look at the 2023 revenue, the totals. So the middle table, 3rd column over 2023 permit revenue is 276,000. In total, I guess the total of that middle table is where we have that 32 and the 27. If you see that.
Yeah, but then it seems like when you go to the bottom graph, the numbers are reversed, right? Because then it goes to 27 and 32, and you slide over, it goes to 32 and 26. So permit revenue average is 27 for 2% for us, 32 for Southwest. And you slide over allocation for municipalities, the numbers are reversed, so I'm just confused by that.
Yeah, and through the mayor, those numbers reflect a combination of a weighting of the assessment column, 2023 assessment column, and the permit revenue column. So the first column is 2023 assessment, where North Middlesex is 37% and Southwest is 20%. Do you
Okay,
see?
so assessment, that's the value of the structures that are going
No,
up?
that's the assessment of the municipality.
Oh,
So
the
North
tax rate.
Middlesex's assessment is $2.1 billion.
I see, okay.
And so it's the weighting, the allocation is half of it's weighted on the assessment of the municipality, how large that municipality is, the assessed value. So the overall assessed value of North Middlesex is 2.1 billion. Where the overall assessed value of Southwest is 2 billion. And that's the first category. I guess you want to compare apples and apples.
I understand.
So we've
Okay.
taken half the assessment weight and half of the revenue.
This is similar to an agreement we had along Shores with the fire services when it was assessment based without representation, correct? Very similar. Yeah, very much. We had the Tea Party in Boston on that.
Yeah. It certainly is one of the challenges with the shared service agreement, and we want to be as transparent as possible. So we're still in the early stages of that, the best way to bill out our time and to cost share this service.
Thank you.
Okay, other questions? Just on that, will this be a living document that's sort of at the end of the year, it's renewed or it's checked and it's verified to see that it's working?
Yes, great question. Thank you. Through the mayor. This document will change every year. And it will be based on the previous year's construction value plus the first half of the current year.
Okay.
So, because we don't want to wait till the end of the year, because we all do our budgets at different times. Middlesex Center, we want to get our budget set in the third quarter. So at the first half of this year, we'll come up with the total construction revenue this year plus last year. So it'll be a year and a half. And of every year we'll recalculate it.
All right, thank you. Any other questions? Councilor Irwin.
Just tweak a question, Your Worship. So this year's a pilot year.
Pardon me?
2024 will be a pilot year, correct? The first year, pilot year. So can we review the whole weighted formula before 2025? Because after our first year, we might have some service considerations or some other issues. That kind of speaks to the mayor's question as well.
At council's direction, yeah, we certainly can make it just for 1 year, see how this works for our member municipalities, and then consider bringing it back.
If that's council's wish, that's what's in front of council. Councilor Cornelison.
Do we need to make a decision tonight?
What would you defer for what?
I'm just asking if we need to make a decision tonight.
No, well, we have a recommendation. So it's up to council. When we deal with it. Okay. What's your wish? Councilor Daigle.
I'd like to see it for 1 year so we can see how it's working.
You're making that a motion? You're seconding it? Any discussion on that? In favor of that? Carried.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We'll be here again in a year.
Yes, we will. I'll reach out to.
I think that the good side to that, I believe, is the fact that it gives a chance to see where everybody's at. So.
Okay.
And it's not a reflection on the service. It's
Understood. Understood. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks, Arne. Our next report is Manager of Infrastructure and Ellis Craig Water Tower Project Update. And Stuart, come on up. Are you coming up as well, Rod? No? He's just gonna let it. Okay. Okay. Perfect. Thank you. Yeah. All right. Go ahead, Jaden.
All right. Okay. Good evening, Your Worship and members of council. As Mayor Ropp had mentioned, we're joined here tonight by Stuart Winchester of SEMA Plus, who will be available to provide any additional information as required and to assist with answering any questions from council on this report. So as requested at a previous council meeting, I've prepared an information report for council for the Elsa Craig Water Tower project. The report includes a timeline of the project in table 1, and there's a financial summary of the project provided. Summarized in table 2, the design phase was completed approximately $45,000 under budget. The construction contract is estimated to be completed approximately $270,000 under budget. And the site inspection and contract administration contract is estimated to come in approximately $63,000 over budget. SEMA Plus Engineering is requesting that their site inspection and contract administration budget be increased by $63,000 to cover additional engineering costs incurred as a result of unforeseen project delays, which are summarized within the report and in the attached letter. This report also provides council with some information about project efficiencies, including a summary of some of the main project efficiencies. And as of the most recent payment certificate, there was still approximately $16,200 worth of uncompleted work and $7,750 of deficiency work remaining to be completed. The project is currently in the warranty phase. It received substantial performance in October 2022. So in October 2024 is when the 2-year warranty period comes to an end. And the next steps on this project are going to be working on addressing the outstanding deficiencies, completing final testing and inspection, and then final submittals before total project completion. So I'm available and Stuart's available to answer any questions council has.
Questions? No questions? Councillor Keo.
Thank you, Mayor Rupp. Jaden and Stuart, just reading through this here this afternoon, looking through the deficiency portion of this, and it seems that we're almost being fined for adverse weather conditions, different asphalt repairs, topsoil, and that kind of stuff. Why would that be on the municipality's back?
So through the mayor, those costs, those deficiencies identified, those aren't items that we're paying for again. Typically for deficiencies, that's money that we'll hold back from the contractor. So when I covered that there's remaining uncompleted work and deficiency work, it's money we haven't paid to the contractor yet until we're satisfied that those deficiencies are addressed. So they did have to come back and address some of the issues with the topsoil and the seed, and they had to do a couple asphalt repairs when it wasn't satisfactory. So for those matters, we're not double paying or being penalized on them.
And that also, like the calibration of that bulk water system that both you and I worked at to get that into play. Okay, I'll just leave it at that.
Councillor Reynolds.
Thank you. Jaden, how was SEMA awarded this contract?
Through the mayor. Yeah, I wasn't here, but I believe that the municipality, Stuart have information because I think he was here then, but there was an RFP process. So the project was put out to RFP and proposals were submitted by multiple engineering firms, and then they were selected and recommended to be awarded the contract. And council then.
So they submitted a bid.
Correct.
And council accepted that bid.
Yeah, they submitted a proposal.
Right. And so now their bid was not adequate to cover what they feel was their costs. They're coming to us to increase the bid post haste.
That's correct.
Well, is that not on the bidder? Is it not on them then to be responsible, to bid responsibly?
So maybe I'll open it up to Stuart here as well to provide comment.
I think what you're asking for is justification of the increase.
Well, absolutely, because if they submit a bid, like in my days as a contractor, when I submitted a bid to construct a house, I couldn't go back to the owner of the house later on and say, oh, I had to hire an extra guy, I got to charge you more. That's not how it works.
Okay.
Right?
So I think, but the question is what justification to the increase?
Exactly. Okay. I need to understand what prompts you to come back and say, well, we had to do work that we didn't plan on, what you should have planned on in your bidding process.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, the bid process for the Elsa Craig elevated tank identified, design requirements, tendering requirements, and a certain allowance for services during construction. As Jaden has identified, through the design phase, we were somewhat efficient. We were below budget, and we're able to complete the design phase and the tendering phase within our bid budget. The construction phase is somewhat contingent on the performance of the contractor and the amount of time that it takes the contractor to finish the work. In this particular case, and as outlined in our letter, I believe it was, of 2023, there were a number of delays that realistically were beyond the contractor's control. There was the crane operators strike that extended the construction period by at least a month. Then there was issues with subcontractors doing coatings. And well, first off, the delay because of the crane operators strike put the coatings application into adverse weather conditions. So things got delayed. As a result, through that delay, there was additional engineering effort required to ongoing inspection through that construction period. And those are the costs that we're trying to make sure that we're compensated.
And I understand your point. I do. I hear what you said. But I guess my thought is, why should the ratepayers in North Middlesex be penalized for those oversights? It's not their responsibility.
Okay. Councillor Irwin.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you, and thank you for the report. At the bottom of page 3 of the report, the last 2 paragraphs actually outline the delays. And I'm curious, you've mentioned 2, there's 3 here. Any of those delays attributable to any actions on the municipality? Did we contribute to any of those delays in any of our actions or activities?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I do not believe that it was any actions by the municipality that caused the delay. As I indicated, the crane operator strike is something that is, beyond anybody's control. That in working on this particular project, that's certainly not something that's under the contractor's control, nor our control, nor the municipality's control. That delay certainly contributed to overall cost overruns, at least on our perspective. As identified in Jaden's report, we were still able to deliver the construction of the project, efficiently, and we are still under the overall project budget.
Great.
Okay.
And
follow up on
my second question, the total of the additional costs is $63,114. Is that 100% of the total? Are you suggesting the municipality pick up 100%, or is that a percentage part of the cost overrun? Is that 100%, 50%, 75%?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, and I without having all the numbers in front of me, that number would be the costs that have been incurred by SEMA for the additional construction period, but do not reflect the design budget that was not utilized.
Okay. Councillor Keel, you're good? Councillor Nerda.
So is this the list here in your report, the list of deficiencies? Are these 6 things still have to be completed then? Jaden?
Through the mayor, no, those aren't the remaining outstanding deficiencies. I just wanted to provide some of the main deficiencies that we had been working on, just to sort of characterize the general nature of the deficiencies.
So is there still 60 outstanding? Or how many are outstanding? Because this has been going on for 16 months and we're still not
Through,
at
through,
full completion?
through the mayor, there's certainly not 60 outstanding deficiencies. I believe that was the total amount that was addressed, and then they would be reduced over time. I don't have an exact count of the deficiencies. I want to say it's in the order of less than 10, but the total value is identified. So there's $7,750 worth of remaining deficiency work.
Just to follow up, why isn't that work being done? Do we know?
Through the mayor, it has been challenging to, I guess, get the contractor back to site to address some of these. The tower is operational, so some of these outstanding deficiencies, I guess they're just not being prioritized quite as much as we'd like to see. But I'm not sure, Stuart, if you have anything to add about status of deficiencies or why they're not being addressed.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I do know that the contractor has been attempting to rectify certain deficiencies. Some of their equipment suppliers have been to the site to address a problem with one of the control valves, and Rod can speak to that as well. They have come with their forces to address it. I understand that they did some work, have left, and have not resolved that issue. So that's why those items are remaining on the deficiency list. We will make sure that those things are corrected before the final payments are being made to the contractor at the end of the warranty. You know, and if need be, we can direct that those be corrected by the municipality and the cost deducted from the contract.
Okay,
I think so.
you think so? Okay, just to follow up on that. So these are landmarkers responsible to do the repairs at this point.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, yes, that is correct.
And so, but I am, to your point, Stuart, is how long do you wait? It's one thing not to have sod put down or grass planted, but it's another thing when I hear a valve is not what it should be.
Yep.
And so I'm really to me, it's like, let's get it fixed and send them the bill or subtract it from their bill or whatever. But I agree that we've talked about these deficiencies, and I know Aqua's been here, and I think we ask every time about how they're going. And it's a tough process, and I would like to see, I know this is a little bit off topic, but it isn't, because we're hiring SEMA to look after that stuff, right? And I guess that's where I'm a little off on it. I understand what Councillor Cornelison was getting at, and because you're working for our interests, and I'd like to see those deficiencies cleaned up. I think that is absolutely, as I said, it's one thing when grass wasn't seeded or didn't catch or whatever. When valves and things like that, those are certainly important. Yeah. Because if something goes wrong, we're going to go talk to Rod and say, you know, what did you do? And if he tells us it's a valve that I've been complaining or I haven't had fixed, you know, shame on us, right? So I think with part of this, we need to get these deficiencies addressed one way or the other. And I know it's your report, Jaden. I don't mean to look just you, Stuart, but that's where I think that's just a comment, a follow up to Councillor Nerda. Councillor Keel, you had.
Thank you, Mayor Rob. Actually, it's just a comment, and I think all members of council are kind of the same thought that it's a little brash to come and want more money, nothing repaired, nothing resolved, and then our next topic is another contract.
Yeah, let's stay on this one for now,
No,
because
but
we're coming to that. Yeah,
it's the point I'm trying. Perhaps maybe there's a certain level of politeness, but I guess I just get into it is it's brash to come want more. It's not. What's it going to take?
Through you, Mr. Mayor,
Yes, absolutely.
the budget estimate that we provided back in May was to take our component of the project to completion. So everything that would be required through the remainder of the warranty period. So ensuring that all the deficiencies are corrected, completing the 2-year warranty inspection, making sure that, you know, if there are any defects that are found at the 2-year warranty inspection are addressed,
doing those inspections, that would be included within that additional fund request.
That's within these, that's in the
That's
scope of
correct.
these funds. Okay, thank you. Okay, Counselor Keel? Counselor Daigle?
What happens if we get to October, these things aren't done? And so we build them or have to have it done and it costs more than the money we have left.
So I think that's addressed to you, Jaden. I would think that's
Yes.
coming to, what,
Through the mayor, I mean, that's a bit of a contractual, like, wondering if Stuart might have more expertise with that, but maybe give him.
Oh,
some
okay.
shot at it.
Yeah,
Okay.
I can
So
certainly
I'm
speak to
sorry,
that.
didn't
I
mean
can, through you, Mr. Mayor, under the contract, we have certain money set aside for deficiencies and uncompleted work. But in addition to that, we have a substantial amount of money that's held back as warranty holdback. So anything that is identified at the end of the warranty and, immediately prior to full completion of the project, if there are works to be done, we have those funds available. I don't recall the number or the value of the maintenance holdback off the top of my head, but it would be well in excess of $100,000 that we're still holding on the contract on.
My fear would be if we get into valving and issues like that, it could come to $100,000.
Counselor Irwin?
Just a final comment, your worship, which may or may not be addressed, goes back to my original two questions. One is, none of the cost overrun can be contributed to anything the municipality did. And secondly, 100% of the cost overrun in terms of fees are being asked by us to pay. And I find that rather unfair.
Okay. That's more of a comment. You're not really looking for an answer to that. That's a comment to me. Well, are you
Comment
putting a-
question, I'll leave it up to whomever
No,
wants to address it.
are you putting a question in?
That was a question. Pretend there's a question mark at the end. That is a question.
Stuart?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I certainly do understand, the perception of, we submitted a bid, and, we should be complying with the bid. However, during construction, the amount of effort that, as the engineering consultant, that we have to provide is somewhat unknown. We, on a typical project, we will, incur certain costs, incur a certain amount of effort through the construction period. However, performance of the contractor certainly has an influence on it. Duration of the contract certainly has an influence on it. We need to provide inspection during the active construction period, and the efficiency of the contractor addressing defects and achieving final completion of the contract certainly impacts the level of effort we are required to provide. Throughout this period, this will probably not sound the best. We have put as much effort in as we reasonably can to make sure that the contractor is addressing all the works and all the outstanding works. But certainly, if there is non-performance, there are steps we can take. We have not taken those yet to force the contractor to jump. But based on your comments, Mr. Mayor, I think we have our direction to force Landmark to move forward quickly, especially on that the valve issue.
Yeah, thank you. That absolutely is the case, because I do believe we ask Aqua every time they come in, are the deficiencies being addressed? And I believe the answer was it's a process. And to me, that's a wait. Go ahead, Councilor Nerd.
I just have a follow-up to that. So again, we've been waiting 16 months. How much longer are we going to wait?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, we will provide instructions to Landmark to have that work completed within a week. If they are unable to give us a clear answer, or let me rephrase that. have the work completed within a week or submit a schedule, an acceptable schedule to North Middlesex within a week. And if that's not done, then we are free to move forward and have the repairs done on Landmark's behalf.
Thank you.
And I think having a schedule
Yeah.
given is a fair, way of to say that, have it all
Oh, you-
done in
you
a
can't-
week.
you- Yeah, it's gonna
No.
be difficult. to have it done.
Yeah, with a schedule of time. That's, any other questions on this? You're better now? Okay. Oh, you better not. I thought you said you're better now, so never. Okay, any other questions, any other comments? We have a recommendation in front of you. What is the wish of council?
I would maybe agree to it when it's complete, when it's this increase,
So,
63,000 revised contract pricing, $444,000.
so let me get the motion that you're making, that you're saying you're agreeing to the motion with the deficiencies looked after? Is that what you're saying? I'm trying
I'll
to get the
agree
motion.
the increase when the deficiencies are looked after.
Yeah, that is deferring it. That's what
Yeah.
you're saying, till the.
Correct. Sorry.
Okay. Is there, that's what I wanted to just get. Is there a seconder on that? Council. Yes, Deputy Mayor Hodgins, okay? In favor of that motion? Okay, yep, go ahead.
If I may, Mayor, I have a
Yep.
question. So is your motion then that we pay the full amount requested when the deficiencies are completed? Or that the amount owing or what we're going to subsidize is open for negotiation?
My motion is agree to the $63,000 increase upon full completion
Of the
of the
deficiency.
deficiencies. This way it's a carrot in front of the nose to get it done.
And I think I heard Stuart allude or make a comment that they're going to hold Landmark accountable for some of this. Is that, did I hear that?
Yes, he's going, the deficiencies, SEMA is going to contact Landmark to get a schedule, within a week to get a schedule for completion.
And is Stuart going to go after Landmark for some of the costs associated with those deficiencies and the delays?
That's a question we'd ask.
Through you, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah.
Under the contract, the delays would be beyond the contractor's control. And because of that, there was an extension to the contract. And as such, liquidated damages for late completion would not be applicable. There is no mechanism to go after Landmark for additional engineering costs.
And how was that negotiated? Like who agreed to extend the contract time?
That was agreed to through the construction period. Sorry. through you,
No,
Mr.
go
Mayor.
ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Okay,
Was Ms. Pally agreed to that?
Through the mayor, I think that was, I don't have that information right handy. I think that was before me, but I think if it was related to the, as Stuart said, you know, the crane strike and as per the general conditions, it's acts like that, they're permitted for contract extensions.
okay. Correct, yeah, the motion is deferral but to pay the request upon completion.
Upon
of
successful
deficiency.
completion of all this.
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, through you, Mr. Mayor, bear with me here, please, me if I misinterpreted. But the motion would be then that council received this report for information and that council increased the budget for the contract administration services contract with SEMA Plus Engineering for the Elsie Craig Water Tower project by $63,114 for a revised total contract price of
$444,000.
$44,807.49 to be paid upon the completion of the noted deficiency.
Correct.
One more note, no late charges and no interest on that holdback.
No, okay, so we have that motion, we have a second. Is there any more comment on it? None in favor? In favor of that? 2, 3, 4, opposed to that? 2. It is passed. Okay. Thanks, sir. One comment I will make to that project. That was a good project. It's a good infrastructure in our community. I do want to make that comment to that. I have been complaining about the deficiencies because they need to be completed, but it's a good piece of infrastructure. And so I just want to make comment to that. Okay, we have you doing your second report as well. And that is for 5.8. That is for the Parkville Main Street cost increases. Jaden.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you. So the purpose of this report is to request council to approve the engineering budget for the Park Hill Main Street construction project, to approve increasing that budget by $119,545.50 for a revised total contract price of $631,381.50. Our engineering consultant, SEMA Plus, provided their justification for the cost increase in the letter, which is attached to the report. And to summarize the reasons, they are delayed project startup, resulting in significant changes to the staging and progress of the work, a significant number of unforeseen utility conflicts, deficient granular road base required to be replaced, a very high level of effort required to deal with combative nature of the contractor. 2 inspectors were required due to the revised construction staging. And then the last one was material and compaction testing not included in the original budget estimate. So in accordance with the municipality's procurement policy, council approval is required for capital expenditures which exceed the budget by more than $25,000. And also, just for council's reference, included in the background of the report is just the reference to the previous reports for the award of the engineering contracts and the award of the construction and the contract administration contract, and a previous report where there was an increase to the construction contract price with Prex Construction, council's reference. So I'll open it up for questions.
Who wants to start? Questions on that? I'll start, since I don't see anybody's hand up right now. Stuart, in that is about 2 inspectors or 2 inspectors on site. Does that include having you hired someone to help carry the project? And
Yes,
so does that include that being the second person?
Mr. Mayor, no, we did have 2 physical inspectors. We had Parmi Matharu and Arpit Patel providing inspection services, in addition to Elisa Vespi providing contract administration services.
Okay, so, and I will ask this because you brought her in to help with the project. We shouldn't be responsible to have to pay for that part of the, she was brought in to look after or to head that project. Not in the beginning, she was brought in partway through. And to her credit, this is not a knock on anyone, the work that she did, but is part of this because you had to bring her in to help with the project because of the extra cost. And I struggle with us bearing the brunt of it, if that's the case. So I guess so.
Certainly, Mr. Mayor, certainly, we did pay a higher rate for Lisa's services than we would have with the contract administrator we had originally anticipated carrying going forward. However, the original proposal assumed a fair amount of senior oversight on the contract administrator that would have also been included within our fees. That through negotiations with Jaden, I agreed that our senior oversight would not be billed to North Middlesex. So maybe not dollar for dollar, but Lisa's costs would have been billed to North Middlesex. The senior oversight that was provided to Lisa was not billed to North Middlesex. We've absorbed that internally.
Okay, that's one part. The other part before I turn it over to council is all these extra billing has to do with the time it took, the overruns in time, all this stuff. And that's, as you know, the other side I'm really struggling with because there was 5 weeks where I saw two guys with a rake out there at that other end, and otherwise nothing happened. And then we keep hearing from everyone that delays, and everybody seems to be blaming everybody, but the taxpayers here are the ones getting the brunt of this. And so that 5 weeks, I look at, you know, the rush to get asphalt done, all these things, and how quick the sidewalk got done once they did it. It seemed to take no time, but we struggled for all that time. I would even say almost 2 months where not much was accomplished. And yet we are on the hook for all this time. So I gotta say, I'm personally pretty angry about that part of the project. I mean, I look on Main Street, I like it. I'm not happy it took this long to get a light fixed, but that part and that extra cost, and it's coming from everywhere, all these extra costs, and none of it was on North Middlesex that I know of, unless you can change my thinking that way.
Mr. Mayor, I can't disagree with you. You know, that 5-6 week delay where the contractor was off-site and refused to progress the work at any time was frustrating to all of us. You know, we were constantly on Brax to proceed with the work. There was no reason that they could not proceed with work that we are actually aware of. And as you say, once they came back to, you know, proceed with the sidewalk work, they were able to get that completed very quickly. There's no reason that that couldn't have been done at that time. To one additional point in there, during that period of that 5 or 6 weeks, there would have been costs for the contract administration related to meeting with the contractor, pushing on the contractor. However, our inspectors were not on site, and there would be no charges for the inspection during that period.
Okay, and that doesn't even count about how much, and I'll leave it after this. I'll turn it over to council, but how much staff, North Middlesex staff time was eaten up because of all this extra time and energy that was wasted, I will say, for that time. Like there's a lot of stuff that weren't able to be done because focusing on different things that we shouldn't have had to focus on, because that's why we hire SEMA to look after it, right? But it just seemed that we had a lot of staff doing a lot of work on it as well. So I'll leave it at that because I don't think there's an answer for it. I better let it go. Councillor Irwin, you had your hand up.
Thank you, Your Worship. 2 points for clarification. The first point is the additional cost outlined here is $119,545.50. This is a shared project with the county. Is that additional cost all for North Middlesex?
Jade.
Through the mayor, there is cost sharing there with the county for these additional costs, as well as overall for the project costs.
Just to clarify that point, Your Worship. So is this our portion of the additional cost, or will this part of this be shared with the county? I'm not clear.
Through the mayor, part of that will be shared with the county. The exact portion of it, I can't say right now, but the part of that is their cost.
This includes the county portion as well, is what, right?
Through the mayor, yes.
It's still all the same taxpayers.
So now, Your Worship, that raises additional questions before I ask my second one. Has this been presented to the county yet?
Through the mayor, we're keeping in close communication with the county. So they participate in our regular meetings. So with respect to this piece of additional cost, I'm not sure if we have shared that with them, but we are in regular communication, and so they'll be aware.
Did you have a second question?
Yes, well, I have several more, but I just asked the
Okay.
second one I originally had, your worship. And maybe I'll come back if the rest of the council doesn't ask. In terms of identifying the contractor, assessing their ability to do the work and then finally awarding the contract to the company. Was SEMA involved in any of those activities?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. For the tender process for the Park Hill Main Street Water Main project, North Middlesex went through a pre-qualification process to pre-qualify, competent contractors. The successful contractor certainly presented, very good information within the pre-qualification documents. North Middlesex staff did a reference check on the contractors and received very positive references for that particular contract or contractor. I'm not certain where those references came from. Certainly not SEMA.
I do want to say here that I don't want to go down a road that we shouldn't go down, and they certainly showed that they're capable of doing the work. That's not the issue. So I don't want to make it look like we got, I don't want to badmouth any contracts or anybody. So go ahead.
Your worship, I only asked that question because I heard in the preamble that part of the reason for the additional cost was the nature of the contract. They were not easy to work. So I just wanted to understand if SEMA had any part in assessing or helping us award to that contract.
So I can answer that question, I think the only way we can, and that is that SEMA brought a recommendation after getting all the tender process. SEMA brought a recommendation to council for that company to do the work, and council approved that. And we'll let it go at that. I mean, it's okay.
Through you, Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
if I can.
Yes.
Following completion of the pre-qualification process, we ended up, I believe, with 4 or 5 pre-qualified contractors. Each one of those contractors was invited to submit a detailed bid. And the selection, essentially, once we were past the pre-qualification, our contractor selection was basically based on price, or they may have been disqualified if there is irregularities or informalities within the bid. Unfortunately, or in this case, there wasn't any. So there was, we selected based on low price.
Okay. Councilor Nerda.
This last 119,000, is this the last payment? Is this the last amount of money that you're going to be asking for an increase? Is there any more, I guess my question is there any more costs going forward? Or will this be the last time you come to council asking for more?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, assuming that the contractor proceeds, finishes their or corrects any deficiencies, outstanding works in a reasonable schedule, that would be it. Unfortunately, at this point in time, we do have a claim that is in negotiation with North Middlesex, and there is, I'm not sure where that's going to go. So I'm not going to commit that this amount would cover our assistance in the claim negotiations.
And that's something, another subject.
Yeah, that I'm assuming it would not be here.
Any other questions on this? No other questions? We have a recommendation in front of us. And is that council increase the budget for the contract administration services contract with SEMA Engineering for the Park Hill Main Street construction project by $119,545.50 for a revised total contract price of $631,381.50. This is for services rendered. You have to.
How can we vote for that if we don't know if we're paying what percentage of 119,000? How can we vote for this motion? I have no idea if it's 118,000 we're paying or 50,000 we're paying or whatever number it is. Until I have an actual number, I can't vote. for it.
So that's on the whole project though. We, we're paying for the whole project and then it's being billed to county as a third party. We're looking after the project. Like we're in charge of this project. The county let North Middlesex do this project. So that will be figured out after the fact, but this is all part of the cost. And so I'm not sure where we could go with that comment made. I'm not sure where we could, Jaden.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Just through you to maybe provide some clarification on that. So the county is committed certainly to paying their share, and we have a close working relationship with them. We have met with them to go through the cost sharing. Unfortunately, that wasn't something that was established prior to construction, which would have been good. But we basically go through the contract line items or line by line and agree on who's paying for what. Generally, their scope is contained to the roadway from the curbs in and the road reconstruction that we had to do. So it would be a bit of a dynamic number with what their portion of this would be, because our expectation would be that once we do that line by line analysis to figure out what their portion is, that would establish a percentage, and then their percentage share, they would pay that same percentage of this cost overrun. And just to give the counselor some, I guess, direction on what that number would be, it's less than half. I would say it's around 15 to 30% would be the county's share, approximately.
Sorry, Councilor Canellis and then Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor Rob. Jane, wasn't a good deal of this cost overrun due to the road work that needed to be done to increase the base of the road that it could hold the pavement, the new pavement?
Through the mayor, this cost increase is strictly for SEMA's extra work and effort on the project. It'd be hard to determine how much that is. Certainly the road reconstruction piece of work did take quite a bit of time. There was an associated contract extension, and we could get into the details with that, but certainly the county is committed to working out the details with us on what that cost sharing is.
Well, I'm kind of with Councilor Irwin on this one, because until we know what it is, because if the cost overrun is significantly because of the road reconstruction, that's on the county, it's not on us, right?
Through the mayor, the cost overrun from SEMA, it's certainly not. I wouldn't say that the road reconstruction portion is really what's driving this. Mostly, like there's a lot of factors to it, and it's just the overall construction project. I'm not sure, Stuart, if you have anything to add.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I guess. Just where do you begin with this particular project? When the project was originally tendered and envisioned, we had previously held a public meeting with the business owners along Park Hill Main Street. And the direction that was given to staff and to SEMA was to attempt to get this project done through the winter period so that Park Hill Main Street was opened through July and August for the summer season for vehicles driving to Grand Bend. So the works were tendered with an anticipated start in, and I don't recall the exact date, but I believe it was August. So the notice of award went out in time, but unfortunately due to supply chain issues and difficulty with your Ontario One Call and obtaining locates, contractor wasn't able to commence work until I believe it was in November, if I recall correctly. Regardless, because of that, the works could not be prosecuted as was originally anticipated. The contract was originally set up so the works would be commenced at the north end of Park Hill, coming southerly to I believe just, was it past Mill Street, Mill and Hastings, thereabouts? And then completing full restoration of that to binder course asphalt, then moving to the south from there down to Broadway, do the same thing, and then, or, sorry, I guess the first one was to Broadway, second stage was from Broadway to Elginfield Road, last stage being the small portion on Elliott Drive. So that was the original setup. But because of the late start, weather conditions, and the desire to keep the project moving and trying to get the project complete for the businesses on Park Hill Main Street by July, the decision was made to permit the contractor to alter the staging, and ended up going all the way through. Very shortly on after that decision was made, we ran into some municipal drains that were unknown to ourselves, so they weren't shown on the contract drawings. So there was a lot of effort spent in investigating those drains, a lot of effort dealing with the contractor and how we work around this. You know, all of that just contributed to additional delays and additional effort, certainly effort on our part. But with those changes, we also then allowed the contractor to work on phase 3 while they're working on parts of phase 1. And that drove the need to have 2 inspectors on the site, because I couldn't have one guy looking after both ends of the job at the same time. You know, so the decisions were made through the construction phase that drove additional costs, at least for us. So, you know, it was decisions made the best, based on the best information we had at the time, and with the desire to get this job done as quickly as possible.
Just as a follow-up to that, given your significant experience in bidding these type of projects, is that not to be expected, the unknown contingencies that you may encounter? Is that not to be expected?
There are allowances within the contract for certain unknowns. You know, we do include provisional items within the contract, have pricing for things that are unexpected. I would have to say that what we encountered down Main Street was beyond just about everything that I have on a road recon type job.
My final question, and that's $119,000 as you're asked. What are you willing to settle for? What are you willing to negotiate?
I'm not prepared to answer that question here.
Deputy Mayor Hodgins, raise your hand up, please.
Well, the conversation, kind of forget what how I was gonna say it. The long and short of it, we are being asked to pay $119,545. I expect that bill is coming to North Middlesex. We do not know, you're not sending out 2 bills. You're not sending one to North Middlesex, you're not sending one to the county. That the county's chunk is in that. And that's, I'm thinking up to Jaden and the county engineer to sit down and maybe cut it, figure 30%, 40%, whatever the figure it is. So we're still expected to pay the $119,540 with a known fact that, okay, a third that we might get, throw a couple 40,000 or 30,000, 40,000 back into the county. So our kind of number that we're looking at is 80 or 90,000, somewhere in that, just ballpark. But we are expected to pay out of our thing the 119, whether we want to or not. We're expected to pay this 119. That's what I'm getting at. They're not sending out 2 bills. We are still the one going to cut the check.
And instead of, we're not going to send a bill to, or talk with county just on this portion, it's on the whole project, right? It's going to be one agreement that it's going to be paid. That's how it's. Jaden.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, just to remind council too, this is a project that we did get grant funding through the Investing in Canada infrastructure program. So just with respect to the source of financing for this project, I'm not sure if our treasurer has anything to add in that respect, just with respect to where, the funding comes from.
Councilor Daigle?
I'm just looking at the table 1, the engineering breakdown. material testing, there was nothing in the approved budget. And that, other than 13,650 for additional material testing. This material testing, did it come about because of all of a sudden there was a need to replace the road base because it was going to be accepted as it was originally, and then it was found to be deficient?
Jaden or Stuart, who's going to answer? Stuart, go ahead.
On the hook again. Through you, Mr. Mayor, the original proposal that we provided to Jaden's predecessor outlined what we anticipated for the scope of our work and identified that the cost of material testing would be in addition to that and carried through a separate budget, whether the material testing consultant was carried by North Middlesex directly or as additional fees for SEMA. So the original proposal did not include material testing, though we always understood that material testing would be required. Material testing is not something that's a service that SEMA provides.
Okay, is that good? Okay, is there any other questions? No other questions. We still have a request here and a recommendation from staff that we pay $119,545. What's council's wish here? Deputy Mayor Hodgins. You move the
I move the recommendation.
Okay,
We'll see where it goes.
all right, a seconder. No seconder on this? What's council's wish then? Counselor Daigle.
Is it possible to have a meeting with the county so we can kind of get this broken down before we agree to it? Because if the county balks on it, we're up against it for $120,000. We should see what the county's come close to what the county's going to be paying of this portion, what's going to come out of grant funding, so we know what the last dollars are coming to the taxpayer.
Jaden, do you have any comment to that, or Carolyn? I mean, that's if I remember it right, we are doing the project and we're submitting their share to them overall, not individual pieces. Is that not right? I'm just saying if we go to them just about this.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor, that's correct. We have had a meeting with the county to go through, do that line by line review. And we were generally in agreement with it. You know, no issues at all working that out with them. And I don't expect there would be any issues as we, you know, work out the final numbers with the county engineer. So it would just be, I mean, if that's council's wish, we can confirm that cost sharing. It will take some time. So I'd expect, you know, towards probably the first meeting in March. Would be
The first
next
meeting in March?
Yeah, to be able to bring that information back to council on what exactly that cost split is with the county.
Councilor Keo.
Thank you, Mayor Rob. So I just want to quickly simplify this. We had estimate, a bid awarded, county agrees to X numbers of dollars. We're the other portion of that. Question I'm raising is, they have agreed to that. Will they agree to this overrun proportionately? That's what I'm getting at.
I understand what you're saying.
And I think that's what all councils.
And that's the same thing with the $1.8 million we approved from BRIEX. When was that to add on to this whole project? Wasn't it? I think it was 1.8 million. 1.5. Oh, maybe it was 1.58. Okay, but we approved that here because it was services rendered. It's much the same thing. I mean, it is an overrun. Council, I'm not trying to say direct on it, but let's just move forward on this one way or another. Like, let's make a decision here tonight.
Mr. Mayor, if I
Yes.
could just make one additional comment.
Go ahead.
And maybe this will help clarify to council. The original bid that SEMA provided to North Middlesex for services during the construction phase was predicated on the original contract that considered completion of the project by June of 2023. Through changes that were reviewed, negotiated, argued about, and ultimately approved by North Middlesex, the completion date was then extended to, I believe it was November 10th.
November. Yeah.
So through those changes, North Middlesex has agreed to the additional construction period. And what we are asking for is for compensation for the additional service during construction for that period. We did through that period, we did repeatedly ask the contractor when they were going to achieve completion on the project, but we were unable to get firm commitment from them as to when they were actually going to get there. So in terms of estimating what our overruns were going to be, it was impossible until such time as they actually got there.
I know, and which raises the question that if the contractor was absentee for 5 weeks or there was no business being done, what were you doing to incur costs? If they aren't working, you're not working.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, as I did indicate previously, during that period, we did not have our inspectors on site. There is no inspection charges. We did hold a number of meetings with the contractor, trying to get them to come back. We did, try to respond to all their numerous requests for information that were repeated and frivolous in my perspective. But we tried to work with the contractor to get them back, to get them on site to finish the job.
Okay, Councillor Nerda,
But at a cost of almost 120,000.
not just for that.
Just for that?
No, not just. Not just.
So for the whole period from June to November.
Correct.
That's correct.
All right. That's a better way of phrasing it.
For June to November, but there was about two months of zero work being done of those 5 months.
By the contractor.
Yep.
Okay.
Right.
Councillor Irwin.
Thank you, your worship. Comment for you and council. I don't think council's saying a hard no here. I think what council is saying is we'd like a little bit more information and defer the decision to get. And if that's March, that's only a month away.
Are you making that a motion? We're circling around here and let's.
Yeah,
let's come up with-
I would be happy to make that a motion, your worship. I don't have the complete list of all the other information council's looking for, but I think most of it's been captured in the discussion here this evening.
So I'll turn that, before I ask for a seconder, Jaden, is that possible to get some additional information for council for that for March?
Through your worship, yes, and I just want to clarify with council then, is the additional information required what the cost split is for this engineering overrun with the county?
Correct? Is that correct?
I think it is, your worship, and I think council is still seeking some clarity in some of the actions behind these numbers. Maybe we can submit them after we had a chance to think about it a little bit more, but I as I said, I don't think council's making a hard no. I think they're just wanting some more information before, and I'm putting words in other councilors' mouths, of course, before we make a decision this evening.
Okay, so you've made a motion to defer this to the March.
Yes, your worship, and I would ask our manager here which meeting in March would be the best one.
Through the mayor, personally, just because of vacation time coming up,
Yep,
it would be the
yep.
second one.
Second meeting in March.
It's council's. Yeah.
Okay, so is there a seconder for that? Okay, we got many. Councillor Nerda, seconded by Councillor Nerda. More discussion on that?
So my question for Councillor Irwin is that then to deter, you're agreeing to pay the full 119,000? So subject to what the county is willing to compensate us for?
My motion simply said we would make a decision on this with more information, whether it's the full amount, a partial amount, I'm not sure until we get the information, obviously. Thank you.
Okay? In favor of that motion? So carried. Okay. Before we go on to our next report, we're gonna take a 5-minute break. Might even be 6 minutes, but we'll take a short break. Okay. All right, we'll call the meeting back to order, and we will go back into 5.5 to report from manager of infrastructure on the northern, Ells Craig Northern drainage issues. Uh, 5.4, pardon me, the drainage superintendent, but I believe Jaden, you're going to be presenting that municipal drain tender results and contract award for the Hutchison Eagleson Drain A.
Thank you, your worship. Yeah, I have 5.5. So this is the Hutchison, or sorry, municipal drain tender results and contract award for the Hutchinson Eagleson Drain A. So the purpose of this report is to award the tender for contract MD 01-2024 for the Hutchinson Eagleson Drain A to JLH Excavating Inc. in the amount of $222,990, excluding HSD. Only one bid was received on this project. However, the price came in well below the engineer's estimate of $297,075. So we are recommending that the tender be awarded to JLH Excavating Inc. for this project.
Questions from council? Do you have a question? No? Okay. Councilor Nelson.
Thank you, Mayor Rob. Jaden, this contractor seems relatively new to me. Has he worked with us before in drains?
Through the mayor, yes, I do believe we have worked with this contractor before.
Is he local? Where's he from?
Through the mayor, sorry, I don't have that information.
Okay.
All right. But he has done work for
Arcona.
Arcona?
Yeah. And
But he has done
a lot of work for us. So
Okay. Any other questions? Any other questions on this train? Seeing no other questions, I have a recommendation in front of you. Moved by Councilor Irwin, seconded by Councilor Nerda. All in favor? Carried. All right, now we'll go to 5.5, and that's Ells Craig North drainage issues.
Your worship, I'm afraid the item was moved around on the agenda that some council might be looking at to move the matter we dealt with last to, we have it as 5.8, but the rest of council had it as 5.4. So we're using slightly different numbers. You had the correct item, just the different numbers are reflected.
Okay, so this is the Ells Craig North drainage issue. So change the numbers.
Okay, through you, your worship. This report is a follow-up to previous reports and discussions with council regarding drainage issues, which have been occurring in the northeast area of Ells Craig, around Queen Street, Church Street, and Rabbitwood Court area. The report provides background on the issues and complaints, as well as staff's assessment of the cause of the issues and steps taken to address them. So we were able to confirm that an old storm sewer on Church Street was clogged with tree roots. And we have some photos there that we'll be able to share with council. And so it was clogged with tree roots and debris, resulting in, we believe, water backing up. We believe that this was the cause of the issue that some residents on Church Street were having with their water backing up into their basements. You can just see some photos there of the repair being undertaken by a contractor. So the contractor was hired to complete the repair, which was done on January 23rd, and the storm sewer is now functioning properly. A second separate issue was encountered involving ponding water and flooding in the rear yards of properties on Church Street and Rabbitwood Court. And at the December 6th council meeting, council directed staff to complete an assessment of the drainage issue. So we had our drainage engineer, R. Dobbin Inc., complete an assessment on December 13th, and their findings are summarized in the report. So to summarize R. Dobbin's findings, there is a small channel, which is an old abandoned CN railway ditch in the rear yard of these properties, with a Hickenbottom outlet at the east end, which is approximately 0.84 meters higher than the west end of the channel. The abandoned ditch was filled in years ago by downstream residents to the east, and with the Hickenbottom being at a higher elevation than the rest of the channel, the water does not currently drain from that ditch. There's also the development property to the north, the new lots on Queen Street, and those have provided their grading certificates to the municipality that verifies that the site drainage is in accordance with the design approved by the municipality. And additionally, the southernmost lot on Queen Street did add some additional catch basins along with their southern property line to capture drainage in that area. So the drainage for those new lots should be contained within the rear yards and not spill onto the existing properties to the south. R. Dobbin Engineering did identify a potential solution to address the low-lying ditch area in the rear yards that currently don't have a drainage outlet, and that would be for property owners requiring the drainage. They could petition for a new municipal drain. Therefore, staff is recommending that council direct staff to inform the residents experiencing drainage issues in their rear yards of their option for petitioning for a municipal drain through the Drainage Act.
Questions? Councilor Irwin?
Just a comment and a question. I appreciate the report and appreciate the professional opinion here, but boy, was there a lot of water back. So I'm not sure where it all came from because it wasn't there in the past. That being said, I did ask this question previously in anticipation of council tonight. What would be the cost of a municipal drain to the residents?
Through your worship, I did inquire with R. Dobbin. Thank you for providing the question, Councillor. And they provided a very preliminary estimate. They think it could be in the order of $30,000 to $80,000. It's very early. They didn't do a very thorough assessment. So there's just a lot of variables to that. So 30,000 to 80,000 is the range they provided.
Okay, thank you. Can I ask for clarification, Councilor Irwin? You said there was a lot of water. When are you referring to?
Your worship, I was there both in the spring and the fall, and the backyard were very flooded. So there was a lot of water there on both occasions. I've never seen that much water in those backyards before.
So yeah, I just wanted to clarify. I wanted clarification. Any other questions from council or comments? I have one because it's all private property, could the residents just not agree to put in a drain themselves if they wanted to? And not make it a municipal drain, just a private?
Through the mayor, yes, I do believe that they can do that. They can do a private drain, or a mutual agreement drain is also another one that would go through the Drainage Act, but yeah, certainly property owners can work together to find a solution to do.
Okay, I think that should be part of the options to the residents. If they could meet and just get together, it would certainly, I'm sure, save them a lot of money and be done more reasonably if they could agree to something like that. And it'll be interesting. Interesting's the wrong word, but I wait to see what happens when they start to do the back of that property, the east end of that property with the townhouses, to help mitigate that water. And of course, right from the beginning, to help mitigate that water. So I think that's another thing to make sure to make people more comfortable with what's happening back there. But I think if, I agree to give the results of this to the residents, but also if private drain is another option, I think that's something that should be said to them as well. Okay. Other comments, questions? You have a recommendation in front of you. What's your wish? Move the recommendation by Councillor Irwin, seconder. Councillor Canellison, in favor. Carried. Thank you. Thanks, Jaden. All right, yours is the next one again, and it's the Queen Street gas main relocation.
All right, through you, your worship. This is just a report for council's information. Council may recall that we arranged for Enbridge to relocate the gas main on the north end of Queen Street in Elsa Craig, and that was to be completed in advance of our planned water main construction project. And I just wanted to give this information to council and how the final costs came in. Enbridge's cost did come in quite a bit higher than they had estimated. They estimated the cost to be $402,000 and $402,731. And then 35% of that would be our share. They did come in over budget and over budget by $177,000, and under the standard 35-65 cost split, our share of that overrun would have been around $62,000. After discussing that further with Enbridge, we were able to get them to cut that in half to evenly split our share of the cost overrun. So our share of the total overrun was approximately $31,000. So therefore, the total final cost to the municipality of North Middlesex for the gas main relocation is $171,940, excluding HST. And this does fall within staff's delegated approval. So council approval is not required, but just wanted to bring this for council's information.
Is there any questions on Deputy Mayor Hodges?
Quick question, Jaden, to you, Mayor. Where are they really relocating it to?
Through the mayor, it was just relocating it from the west side of the road, the west boulevard, to the east boulevard. So just flipping it to the other side, so we have a clear running line for that water main.
Any other questions on that? No other questions. We need a motion to receive this for information. Councillor Nerda, Councillor Daigle, all in favor? Carried. Thank you. You're up again. Oh, it's lagoons. Okay, so on the Park Hill Sewage Lagoon dredging update and wastewater servicing capacity.
Through you, your worship. We have a report here, an update on the Park Hill Sewage Lagoon dredging project, and also some information about a proposed wastewater servicing capacity allocation. We wanted to get this information into council in advance of our budget process. So just going through the background, we have had some previous reports to council on this matter. In July of last year, we brought a comprehensive update report back to council about where we stand with the current lagoons and the capacity at the lagoons, as well as the plans for the future wastewater treatment plant. We basically found that the lagoons are at capacity and we can't really proceed with development at this time. In December, we got council's approval for pre-budget approval to move ahead with an engineering contract with RV Anderson Associates Limited to get the design going for the lagoon dredging project. So since that time in December, we've been working with RVA on this project. They have prepared a capital cost estimate for lagoon dredging, and they provide a range for removing the total quantity of sludge, and that range is $2.8 million to $3.2 million. It's estimated that by removing the full quantity of sludge, we could free up approximately the equivalent of 180 single-family equivalent units of development. We are recommending that we proceed with the project and proceed with full sludge cleanout. However, council may also want to consider partial cleanout, which would free up a lesser quantity of wastewater treatment capacity for development. Within the report, we provide a table with the current active development files in Park Hill for council's reference. And then we go into, we do want to recommend that council direct staff to put together a wastewater servicing capacity allocation policy. And that would help us ensure that when we create wastewater treatment capacity at the lagoons, should we proceed with the desludging project, that capacity is allocated in a fair, efficient, and transparent manner. That would be done through council as well. So that would be a policy we'd put together in-house at no cost. And that is the report.
Okay, questions? Councilor Irwin.
Thank you, Worship. Just one question. If we do go ahead and dredge the lagoons, what's the increased life capacity of them?
Through the mayor, just to clarify, when you talk about life, you mean
how long would they be good for?
With respect, sorry, just for clarification, and with respect to
So
capacity,
would it add another 10 years to the life? Would it add another 15 years to the usability? Would it add another 5 years, 25 years? How long would it add to the usability?
So I don't have the exact information on that. It'll be something we'll be working with RV Anderson on as we continue to develop the design. We do know that the lagoon has been accumulating sludge since it was built in the late 70s, I believe it was, and that there's now around 45,000 cubic meters. So we could determine, but it's I guess complicated or complex processes in that the sludge, how it accumulates and how it would displace capacity. But I can certainly get some information back for council on that.
Okay. Carolyn?
There is also added to that is the thought that if you did some maintenance on the lagoons, that may have not been done on nearly as regular a basis, that it could have been done with the lagoons in the past, that we could prolong that. Now, how much, I don't know. But there's some potential opportunity there as well.
Okay. Other questions? Councilor Canellis.
Thank you, Mayor Rob. I have two questions, Jaden. The first one for you is that there's some indication that by doing the sledging here, we could accommodate up to an additional 185 single-family homes. Is there any guarantee of that?
Through the mayor, we do know that, like, based on our current capacity analysis that we've done, we do know that the sludge, it's basically taking up space, like it's occupying space there that could be used by raw wastewater. So provided that the sludge is removed, yes, it does create capacity.
Okay. It's just that I wouldn't want to be disappointed by an engineering report again. And my other question for you is, you make a reference here to 3,759 to 4,306 tones. If we went with a higher limit to 4,306 tones, is that all of the sludge that's in these lagoons, or just still a portion of it?
The mayor, that's total quantity of sludge. Like that's kind of a theoretical dry ton quantity of it. It comes out, as kind of more of a slurry or a certain solids percentage, but that's the total quantity.
I just did some quick calculations, and just for an FYI, it works out to $750 per ton to remove it, which is pretty steep.
Counselor Nerda.
Jaden, this is just a temporary measure. I mean, we'll still have to set aside some funds for a wastewater treatment plant, correct?
Through the mayor, that's correct. Like the wastewater treatment plant is still our ultimate goal. It's just you know, with the inability to fund that project and see it move forward, this is certainly I guess to say it's temporary, it is a thing that we have to do regardless. Should we proceed with the wastewater treatment plant, we still do have to dredge these lagoons at some point. So it's a matter of time for when we have to do this.
And do we have a timeline on when they're going to be cleaned out and desludged? Or is that all contingent on getting the report back from the engineer?
Through the mayor, we would leave it open to the potential contractors that would do the work. It could be as early as, say, end of March, should it be approved, the budget. RVA is working towards having the tender documents ready. They recommend keeping the timeline for when the work would happen flexible with the contractor, so giving them a window, say March till later in the year for them to do the work, and then they can make arrangements to do it at their time.
And then just one more question, Jaden. Once we get this desludged, is that the green light for the developers then to go ahead and start their project that they've been waiting?
Through the mayor, that's the hope. Like, we want to get this desludged to help some of these developments that, you know, are essentially waiting and ready to go to be able to proceed with their projects.
Thank you, Jaden.
I just wanted to add to that. So what Jaden mentioned a few minutes ago, though, it should be subject to sewage allocation strategy so that all the capacity isn't used up by one developer. It needs to be done on a process that allocates it. Often it's done in other places based on performance. So a developer that actually is building and gets building permits and moves ahead would be allocated first, rather than someone who, for instance, might sit on it waiting for sales or something of that nature. So it would be allocated based on a strategy that would be developed and brought to council for approval.
Counselor Daigle, you had your hand up.
Any idea how long it would take to do the full cleanup?
Through the mayor, I'm just looking at some notes here from our meeting with the consultant, but I believe it's a pretty short duration. I believe it's only 2 or 3 weeks. I may ask, we've been working very closely with Aqua on this, and we do have Rod here who's been kind enough to be sitting through the meeting. Maybe, I don't know, Rod, if you have anything to add, or maybe you know those specific information, how long it takes to dredge a lagoon?
Thank you. So to go with Councillor Irwin's comments and Councillor Nerda, the dredging of this lagoon that we're talking about in particular, it is also in relation to the wastewater treatment plant design. So this isn't money that's going to be spent one time. This is actually going to help us in that new plant design. So I want to make sure that everyone is aware of that. So we're going to be able to maintain this lagoon or do any type of upgrades as it's being taken down and dredged in relation to our future project. So that's number one. Normally these processes that RVA is working on, you have a number of different processes to dredge it. So I guess it all depends on what process is being picked or chosen. So yes, 2 or 3 weeks, maybe a month, maybe 2 months tops, just depending on the process of how we were going to dredge that lagoon.
Counselor Daigle.
Just to follow up, we're talking 2 lagoons here, are we not?
The one cell that we're talking about, the dredging, from my understanding, is the south cell first.
But the total project of 3 million or 4 million or whatever it is both being done.
Yeah.
That is a firm yes. That is right. That is the scope of the project, is both cells, correct? Okay.
That is
I
correct.
mean, the way we answered it, just want to make sure that was. Okay, is that all? Councilor Canales.
Thank you, Mayor Rob. The question I have for either one of you gentlemen is that we've had quite a bit of funds invested in the design and build of the plant itself, the mechanical plant. If we go ahead with this and delay that plant indefinitely, what happens to that design?
The design is going to stay as is because that cell is tied to that design. So you didn't lose that design, when we do get our funding, because I believe we're going to be successful and we're going to be able to move with that build. So again, dredging this lagoon is something that we're going to have to do regardless and maintain our system.
Okay, so even if it's 5 years down the road, that design will still be applicable.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Councilor, you said you were good. Any other questions? I have one, and that is if we approve this, because nothing happens overnight with building homes and everything else. If we approve this and we know this is the case, can we start that process then of allowing the start of, construction of 180 units? Or do we have to wait? Or are we going to wait till it's completed and then allocate? I mean, are we going to start that process as we start to work in conjunction?
Through you, Your Worship. I think that ties into this wastewater servicing capacity allocation policy, and that's really going to give us the procedures and the process for how it gets allocated and when they can start. But certainly, once we get the go ahead, I think we want to be sure that it is successful and we have created capacity. But I guess more detail to come when we get there.
I just want to make comment that this is good to get real numbers and to get real information. Because over the past few years, I will say, or at least the last 2 or 3 years, the information has been all over the place. And I think having Anderson, having that sonar done and all that stuff, and actually getting to right where we need to be, where's the best way to spend money, I commend you for that. That we're getting to that point. Is there any more questions on this? Because we have a recommendation in front of us. Oh, sorry, John. Sorry,
Okay.
Councilor Keel.
Thank you. I guess I'll pass this on to Estelle. How are we going to pay for this? We save the egg money?
That will be determined upon budget discussions and budget presentation to council.
Thank you.
It has been a come to the budget committee. No recommendations made yet to go to council, but it has been talked about. It has been brought forward as possible. Any other questions on it? Seeing none, that council received this report for information that council directs staff to develop a wastewater servicing capacity allocation policy for review and approval by the policy committee and council. You're moving that? Moved by Councilor Nerda, seconded by Councilor Irwin. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Thanks, Jaden. We are now, is this now the William Street sewage pumping? Because I think Brandon's going last. Right? Okay, William Street sewage pumping station in Elsa Craig. Sorry, I should have said that. Where are you going? Hey,
you might as well stay.
Can't get away that early.
All right.
Thanks, Rod. I do appreciate you being here tonight. We do. I mean, to help with these are big reports, and we're talking a lot of money and a lot of impact on the community. So I do appreciate you.
No, my pleasure.
Okay, go ahead, Jaden.
Okay, thank you, Your Worship. The last one. So thanks for your patience. So I just want to acknowledge that we are joined here. We do, and thanks. We're joined by Dillon Consulting. We do have them on the line. So also thank you, Jason Johnson, for your patience. And we also have Bander, the design engineer, or maybe he's not on the call. But Jason, can you hear us?
Yep, loud and clear, Jaden.
Great. Okay, thanks a lot for joining. So this report is on the William Street Sewage Pumping Station. An update on the project, the design work that we've been working on, and an update on the engineering cost. So as council may recall, we did bring a report to council in July 2023 on the William Street Pumping Station Force Main engineering and design contract. And we did award that contract to Dillon Consulting to design the upgrade of the pumping station and the force main that were nearing capacity, and we needed to get upgraded to support all the growth that's coming up to Elsa Craig and Nairn. So Dillon was awarded the engineering contract at a total cost of $125,072.20. And then since awarding that contract, we've been working with consulting on the design of this project. We've made some good progress on the project. The design has been advanced to a 50% design level, and we've received a submittal package, including a design report, cost estimate, and preliminary design drawings. So that information is provided within the report. As Dillon's been working on the project, the engineering scope has expanded somewhat, and there's been some additional engineering design work that we did not originally anticipate having to do as we got into the details. So that is summarized within the report, and the two primary items there are the design of a new equalization tank, or an EQ tank. And the purpose of the EQ tank is to address capacity limitations at the wastewater treatment plant itself. And the purpose of that tank is to store wastewater during peak flow periods to control it and control the discharge to the plant at a rate that it can handle. And there's also, we've decided to complete electrical upgrades at the William Street site to provide a dedicated power feed and backup power to that site. Currently, it's actually fed from the wastewater treatment plant through a conduit that runs under the Sauble River. So Dillon Consulting has provided an updated cost estimate with the design package, as I noted, and the construction cost estimate has increased significantly to $6.8 million based on Dillon's Class C cost estimate, which is provided in Table 1 of the report. And I just wanted just talking about the cost a little bit more. This project was previously identified in our development charges background study because it's certainly a growth related project that development charges pay a large portion of. So in the 2022 study, this project included a capital cost of 1.16 million. And we are currently working on a 2023-2024 update to the DC background study with Watson Associates. And with the information we had available at that time, we increased the project cost to 2.97 million. However, as the designs developed, the cost has obviously went up substantially since then. So moving forward with this project, we are going to continue to develop the detailed design with Dillon Consulting. We're going to review the cost increase with Watson Associates now as we're still going through the DC study to see if there's a possibility to update that to make sure we're capturing the proper development charges towards this upgrade based on the current cost estimate. And we're going to continue to work with Dillon Consulting to confirm where we're at with capacity here, how many more homes we can get out of this pumping station. And then we are also looking at a funding application through the province's Housing Enabling Water Systems Fund, which funds these types of projects. And then just the Dillon Consulting has requested a budget increase for their engineering contract of $50,000 to address the additional design scope as outlined in the report and in the attached scope change document. So that $50,000 increase would bring the total contract price to $175,072.20, excluding HST. And I'll turn it over to council. Thank you.
I was gonna repeat John's question from the last one. How are we gonna pay for this?
I think Jaden did touch on that we've applied for a grant to this.
We haven't applied yet,
No,
but there
we
is,
should say we're applying.
I'll be bringing a report, or Jaden or I will be bringing a report. There is a funding opportunity out there right now through the province, and Jaden alluded to it, the Housing Enabling Water Systems Fund. They fund 67% of a project up to 35 million. So our portion will be the 27%. And we would make that application by April the 18th. I don't know the turnaround time, but it's all related to housing that would be directly, housing opportunities that would be directly related to doing the works. So we know that we have a variety of housing opportunities happening in Elsa Craig, and there's a new one on the horizon for Nairn as well. So hopefully with that, in light of all of that and making an application, we might be successful, but there's no guarantee.
Okay, so I just wanted to, I asked Jaden this question, and maybe this is for Jason, I believe, this question, and that is, can this project be split up into 2 or 3 different sections, like the William Street actual pumping station? And then I know there's the part in the plant as well, the tank you're talking about, also the line. This is also including a new line that goes under the river. So can this be split? Like, can the cost and the project be split up?
If I may, your worship, I could answer that if you'd like.
Yes, please.
Yeah, so I maybe just want to step back one step before I answer the phasing question, and just maybe part of the reason why this scope change came about. Initially, we had made the assumption that the wastewater treatment plant would be equal to or greater than the capacity of the William Street pump station, which is generally sort of, industry standard. When a collection system drains to a pump station that outlets directly to a wastewater treatment plant, generally they're upgraded, designed in tandem. They should sort of meet one another's capacity. And unfortunately, as we dug into the details of this project, we found out that the wastewater treatment plant capacity is actually less than the pumping station. And there's some complexities there as it relates to average day flows and peak flows. And so that's essentially where we're running into some issues with trying to upgrade the pump station, but it's already capable of pumping more than the treatment plant can handle, but the force main is not the correct size. And it's a bit complicated, but I guess the short answer is that it could be phased probably into, I would say, roughly 2 major phases. The first phase would have to include the new pumping station and the force main. Out of the entire cost, it would probably shave maybe 2.5 million off of the total to do that first piece. And then the second phase, I would say you could do the EQ tank in the valve chamber, which is sort of the site work on the wastewater treatment plant. And basically this is sort of a medium term solution that buys you time before you have to do a full-blown wastewater treatment plant expansion. I don't know if that answers your question, Mayor.
Well, it does. You're telling me it could be 2 phases.
it could be two phases, but the first phase, unfortunately, like no matter what, has to include the force main and the pumping
Okay.
station. Yeah.
Okay, and I do know that a few years ago, we did have a leak on that force main down in the flats before it went through to the river. So we
Yeah.
certainly want, I have another question before I turn it, and that is, if we did another force main going through there, could that force main that's there now be used as I'll call it a backup or whatever to, if there was a problem, or or you better just to decommission it and forget about it?
If I can, your mayor,
Yeah.
the existing force main was leaking. Unfortunately, it was replaced, but with the same size diameter. Unfortunately, it was before my time. I don't know that there was any engineering or design behind that. I mean, if a 250 or 12-inch would have been put in, you would have been laughing here. But unfortunately, it was replaced with a newer material, but it's only 6-inch. It's drastically undersized. So even if we increase the horsepower and the pumping rate, we can only jam so much flow through there. So
Okay.
yeah, it's probably I would suggest it's abandoned and replaced like upside.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, thank you. I just was trying to figure out what options do we have and that type of thing. This one, of course, hurts because none of us were aware until recently about this particular project. But so other questions from council on this? Councillor Keough.
Thank you, Mayor Rob. Carolyn, on our grant application, it would only be a one-time grant. Is that correct? Or sorry, not a grant, but funding. We couldn't do that in two parts. It would be a one-time or one offer.
Right.
only.
If we applied for it, we would be doing it all at once. We could maybe phase it within the time frame of the grant, but it would have to be completed within the time frame of the grant, which is by 2027. So basically all at once.
So would it be advantageous to wait to hear back before we make any move on this to see if we are eligible for any type of funding?
And the ask here tonight is to increase the engineering fees. Correct? That is the ask here tonight.
Through your worship, yeah, this is just to bring an update on the project to council and then to present council with Dylan's scope.
Carolyn.
And if I can add to that, to be successful with the grant, they're looking for projects that are ready to go. So completing the engineering work would make us more eligible for funding. They want things that are ready to go.
Follow up.
Would the engineering be done by the time this application is submitted, or I guess would have to be?
Through your
Go ahead.
worship, the engineering does not have to be done in time for the application, is my understanding. We had the opportunity to sit in a webinar, get some information about it. So it's good that the engineering is underway, but it doesn't have to be done prior to the application.
Yes, what I meant by that was that the more we can continue to move it ahead, the better it is for us. And in fact, with this grant, the engineering that we've already done, I think up until, forget what the date was, the pre-engineering, some of that cost will actually be covered by the grant if we're.
Okay, Councillor Irwin.
Again, two questions, your worship, through you. I'll ask the easy one first. The $50,000 additional engineering cost, will that come through development charge fund?
Keep an answer. We don't have an answer to that right now.
Maybe we'll have to look that up for you. Certainly, we'd have to ensure that this is directly related to increased development. I think that could certainly be suggested, that the upgrades are part of that, but I'd have to look at our development charge bylaw. I'm not sure how much related to the Dillion Street pumping station was put in there, so it's my reluctance a bit.
Well, okay, I'll wait for the answer, but it makes sense to me. But anyways, the second one's a little more difficult and a little more political. What's the impact of this project in terms of the Asaba Bluff subdivision?
You may recall that In 2023, we did tell them there was a certain amount of capacity available for them, and they have gone ahead based on that. But there is not enough capacity to complete their project without doing this work.
I think I'll go to them. We have to keep the project moving. There's no question. With the engineer, we have to keep this project moving to get to where we need to be, but that's, any more questions, council? Any more? Councilor Daigle.
When the current plant was engineered, that land was all taken into account as development land. Why, and assigned to all along Queen Street out to Nairn to different properties. Why all of a sudden have we got nothing?
We don't have an answer for what was being thought of at that time. So what was that? Oh, Jason?
If you'd like, I
ahead.
can take a
Yeah.
stab at,
Please.
take a stab at that. The work that was done, but prior, I believe by KMK was close to, what, 20 years ago? Close to 20 years ago. So it looked at a 20-year growth horizon, and where we're at 20 years later, it just doesn't seem to jive with the new numbers we're coming up at. So like, where the exercise that we went through was all of the proposed development that's currently on the table in front of council, or that we feel would be upcoming or very highly likely to be developed in both Nairn and Elsa Craig, was all considered. And that's essentially what we're working towards for the ultimate design of the new William Street pumping station. But the current capacity of the plant is drastically less than that.
Okay.
I guess I will add that as part of these improvements, at whatever point the municipality does proceed and the new pump station gets constructed, in the initial stages, there will only be sort of a minimal amount of capacity granted or made available, but this still has to happen because the pump station, force main, and wastewater treatment plant sort of all need to be apples to apples, orange to oranges, and they're not right now. It's all three components that don't work well together. They're not really designed to be compatible. So the new pump station would be enough capacity and pumps and wet well to be good enough for the next 75 years. Same for the force main. But that doesn't do anything for the wastewater treatment plant. But after that is done, I would highly recommend that the municipality look at an I&I study, because there's approximately 6 liters a second that we're seeing come into the wastewater treatment plant as rainwater or inflow and infiltration. So once the municipality does phase one, I would highly recommend that in that same time you address or try to address the I&I issues. And the more I&I that you can get out of the system before you decide, or move forward with a final phase that might be a treatment plant upgrade, you could find by pulling catch basins and, roof water leaders out of the sanitary, will be a much more economical way to find capacity.
I think that's a great point, Jason, and we hadn't talked about that here at council yet, but we did talk about it at a committee that we have a lot of rainwater coming into our system, and it really shows. Council's seen that on the peak flows and stuff after a heavy rain event when Aqua brings a report. So I think that's a great point made, that we have to address that as well. Is there any other questions here? If not, we have a recommendation in front of us to receive it as information, but also to increase the engineering $50,000 to the combined price of $175,000 $72.20. Moved by Counselor Daigle, seconded by Counselor Keo. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Thank you. Thanks, Jason.
Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, I think that's your last report. You got one more? Yeah, no, but I mean, that's your last. Okay, Brandon, you have a report? Thanks. Thanks, Rod. Thanks for coming, Rod.
Mayor Ropp, members of council, the report in front of you is to do with the score clock project that was approved in December of 2023 to move forward with. Council's wish at that time was for staff to come up with a sponsorship method to try and fund the score clock, at least a large portion of it. Myself and Felicia have come up with a sponsorship campaign to try and fund that score clock. As you can see in the report, there are multiple options that we've come up with, including the most lucrative one, the title sponsorship, which would provide naming rights to the arena. As council may be aware, we have RFP'd for naming rights in the past and been successful in obtaining anyone for that service. With the platinum sponsor, the Olympia Ice resurfacer wrap is included. This is also a project that has been RFP'd in the past and been unsuccessful. Staff's belief is that going into a blind tender process may deter some businesses from going after these opportunities. So putting a value on it, which they know will make them more likely to take that sponsorship. Most of the sponsorships were designed with what's included in them, and then having a certain margin over top, like a board sign for 5 years versus a sports field sign for 5 years in the silver sponsorship. If you take the numbers on those actual sponsorships, and add about percentage, it's pretty much in par with each other. So the added sponsor will be a public skate, and then having your name on a plaque as you enter the arena. We already have a donor board for the arena, so a separate plaque on there that basically indicates our scoreboard was brought to you by title sponsor X, platinum sponsor Y, gold sponsor A, B, C, D, E, F, silver sponsor A, B, C, D, F, etc. So if there's any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Questions for Brandon? Counselor Irwin, then Counselor Nerda.
Did I hear you correctly? You're going to put an RFP out for fundraising?
No, it's not an RFP. It is the sponsorship package indicated in the report.
So I heard the term RFPs.
So in the past, when we wanted a naming right sponsor, it wasn't a fundraiser, it was just for naming rights of the arena. We put out a request for tender for the highest bidder would get their name on the arena. So at RFP, because it would be a proposal, this is what I would like to name the arena at this cost across this many years. This is what I would like in it. And we were unsuccessful.
Well, just to your worship, certainly we're not going to try that again.
No, what
No,
I'm suggesting is
God.
this is a package that would be approved, and we would try and sell that sponsor.
Thank you.
Okay, Counselor Nerda?
And Brandon, what happens if we don't get the money for the scoreboard? How will you be securing funding for that? Through grants, through?
Certainly, I would plan on bringing a report back to council probably at the end of April to identify where we're at in this campaign, and then test council's appetite. If we've fundraised 40,000, I would bring that back and see where council's appetite to proceed with the project is. My belief is that we will be successful in fundraising more than that.
Just a follow-up comment.
go
And Brandon, I just want to thank you for coming up with ideas to get money and not for ask council for money.
Counselor Canellison.
Thank you, Mayor Ropp. Well, Brandon, I'm excited about this, the proposal you have brought forward, and I think you will be successful. And I look forward to hearing positive outcomes.
And just one final note on it, any title sponsor will come back to council in the form of an agreement that outlines the naming rights agreement, which is quite common for other municipalities to sell the rights to their.
Okay, any other questions on that? Okay, we have a motion in front of us to approve the sponsorship methods outlined in the report. Moved by Counselor Nerda, seconded by Deputy Mayor Hodgins. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Thank you. We're already at passing of accounts. That's the liveliest council's been for a while, and I said. Okay, passing of account.
Thank you, your worship. The report in front of you outlines the municipality's expenses for the period of January 12th through to February 1st for a total of $780,183.79. I have received questions from members of council that I would like to share with all of council. So the first question is the payment of $176,894 to Middlesex Center for the culvert. Is that the total cost to the municipality? So this is the total cost to the municipality. So the total cost for the project was $313,087. So the 50% share to the municipality is the $156,543, and that is the total cost for the project. The second question is the payment to Elgin County for, I'll read the exact question, for the exact same thing, hazmat operations awareness for 452, both on December 31st. Why did we pay them twice for the same service? There is a second part of the question, is that we are paying for 2 personnel as well. Help me understand this expense. So basically, the expense here is for training for some of our firefighters. That was done through Elgin County. There were 4 different courses that some of our firefighters attended. The first one is a Fire Instructor 1 course that was attended by one of our firefighters, Casey Wall. The second one is Public Information Officer course that was attended by Scott Jones and Victoria Constantine. And then this one here in regards to the hazmat awareness operations. Yes, there were 2 payments. The reason that there was 2 payments and they were not all included in the same payment was because it was on 2 different dates. 2 different dates. So we had one firefighter attend one session and a different firefighter attend the other session. And Elgin County invoices per course. And then the third one is for Fire Officer 4, and Scott Jones attended that course as well. The next question is regarding the payment to Anderson Electronic. It says, the description says annual inspections to what? So this is the annual inspection of the fire alarm and emergency lighting at 11 different facilities within the municipality. So the Elsa Craig Community Center, the Elsa Craig Library, the Elsa Craig Medical Center, this building, the Carnegie Library, the Park Hill Medical Center, the Leisure Club, the Park Hill Community Center, the Park Hill Arena, the West Williams Hall, as well as the Old Town Hall. And the last question is not regarding these accounts, but it was a question that was brought up at the last meeting in January. And it was regarding the additional dollar amount for the fire hall. So was that amount included in your previous project cost report, or is it over and above what we saw previously? I will let Brandon speak to that question.
So the last 2 bills would have been the November progress payment as well as the December progress payment. Portions of it are included in the contract. Others would be over and above, such as when you do asphalt, you pay an AC adjustment. That cost is never budgeted for because they don't know what the adjustment's going to be. Typically, if you pave in November, it's a little bit higher. Some of the other costs were over the allowances already. So our testing allowance, we kind of blew out of the water with the contaminated soils. So any testing for asphalt compaction, we were already over, but they needed to be done. There's also some that were credits back towards the contract. We had about $30,000 saved on the fencing by delaying to the end of the project, so that was a credit coming back. There are a couple outstanding items as well. We do have hydro seeding to be done still, as well as top coat on the rear side of the fire hall. So those will come with an AC adjustment on that, but the hydro seeding will be included in the contract. And we have about 50,000 in allowance unused that we're expecting to get back on as well. So hope that helps.
Is that all your questions that you had to you?
Yes, your worship, those were all the questions that I received. I now open the floor to any other questions.
Other questions? Councillor Keo.
Thank you, Mayor Rupp. Estelle, was that last question one that I had to you earlier?
Yes, it was.
Okay. Do we have any idea how many more dollars we need to finish this firehouse up with?
I would estimate that since the November progress billing to now, that contract value that I brought you in the last report will be higher than where we finished.
Okay.
Other questions? No other questions. We need someone to make a motion to receive this for information. Councillor Irwin, Councillor Nerda, all in favor? Carried. Thanks, Estelle. Committees. So Lake Huron Primary. ABCA. Oh,
Lake
go ahead.
Huron, sorry, Lake Primary just received notice that March 7th is the next meeting.
Okay. ABCA. Blue Water Recycling.
For information.
Okay. Economic Development.
Nothing to report, but we did have our first North Middlesex Business Associating meeting on the 25th of January, and it was very well attended.
Local School Advisory.
Meeting tomorrow night, your worship. We have some additional information we'll be presenting, including enrollment numbers for local schools, and including a report from the school board on the review of school boundaries, which will be interesting when we bring it forward.
Okay, thank you. I'm hoping to attend. Rec Committee. Okay, policies. Policies.
Same.
Yeah, policy, we don't meet until.
We kept you busy last week.
Fire Committee. Budget Committee. So we're working on it. And we have another meeting Friday, which I'm sure will be all day, but we have been meeting and thanks Estelle for getting us to this point, but yeah, we do have another meeting, but that process is happening now. Community Development. We can say that we've met and the results will be coming to council for the next meeting, correct? Okay, for the next February meeting, the results will be coming to council. Look at Aqua Client Advisory.
Still have not received a date for a meeting.
Okay. So correspondence. The first one is AOR Skills Development Fund to receive and consider support. I'm not going to read that whole motion. I don't think I need to. I'm sure you have all looked at it. Is there a motion to support that? Seeing none, it's receive and file. Municipality of Tweed, the license plate renewal.
I'd like to support that, Mayor Rupp.
Gonna be tougher to do now that they've got rid of their Service Ontario, is it? Okay, you would make a motion to support that. Is there a seconder for that? Councillor Keogh, in favor of that? Carried. Okay. Thank you. City of Sarnia, the carbon tax.
I support that one as well, although I know it's Utah, but I would support it.
Okay. Seconder, Councillor Nerda, all in favor? Carried. Township of Larder Lake Occupational Health and Safety Act. Receive and file. Letter from Enbridge of gas rebasing application, receive and file. MLHU Board of Health meeting summary, receive and file. City of Stratford Civic Night invitation. Everybody's received that invitation? Okay, we'll receive and file it. Other and urgent business. Councilor Keo.
Thank you, Mayor Rupp. Just as of today, I've received three phone calls from residents of Ward 4 wanting to know when they may expect to see a road grader on Argyle Street. They have called, they have witnessed road graders being everywhere else but on Argyle. So maybe like to see some activity there by the weekend. Would maybe save me on my phone bill.
Hopefully before the weekend, right? So, okay, go ahead. Jaden, do you have something to add to that? I know they've been on that road when it was too wet. Like when it was very wet, they've been on Argyle. I don't know if they were the whole length. And I know they did the north end here yesterday, but they only the north end to Nairn Road. So could we get an answer from staff to send that through to council on that? Maybe to all of council, because I've received some as well.
If I
Okay.
could actually just have an email sent to me or a message.
That's what I mean, but if you don't mind sending it to all of council, I think I've been getting some of those same questions.
In order to cool the conversation, I said I
Yes.
would be in touch with them tomorrow.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you.
I think that's reasonable. Other business, Councillor Canellison, you had some?
Yes, I do. I would echo Councillor Keel's concerns. I also got a call today about the road that has been graded. But when you drive over it, once the potholes magically reappear. The other issue that I wanted to bring up is I had a call today from someone who got their tax bill, but they asked if with the new format, if there's still automatic withdrawal, it still applies.
Thank you, through you, your worship. Yes, they do. There was a button that was not clicked in printing the PAP notes on the tax notices. But rest assured, all residents, if you were registered in a PAP program, you are still registered in a PAP program.
As a follow-up to that, and this is, and I've already sent an email to the chair of the policy committee. I've got a couple of calls from ratepayers who attempted to contact the municipality and were unable to connect with anyone or leave a voice message because the mailbox is full. And I know we have a policy in terms of returning calls to ratepayers, I believe it's 40 hours. But if mailboxes are full, then we need to do something about it. And unfortunately, in this particular case, I believe it's someone who's not been available for work because of illness. But then we have to make some accommodations for that. We have to address the issue so that people know what to do when they need to get a hold of something.
Go ahead, Estelle.
Through you, your worship. You are correct. It is the mailbox of the individual who has been away on an extended leave. We did have a short-term contract individual in that seat. And like you, I am now finding out that those voicemails were still in the mailbox and have not been returned. We are working on it. The information now is for individuals to contact myself, and I am returning phone calls.
Great. But anyway, as a follow-up, can I get a report back what our policy is on returning calls?
As chair, I will take it, look up the policy and see what it is, and you'll get to hear from me.
Okay, is that it? Councillor Nerda.
I've gotten a couple emails from ratepayers regarding the parking on the boulevard on Hastings Streets. Maybe this question's for you, Ashley. Can we add some more signage that says no parking or tell the parish members where they could park so they don't park on the neighboring lawns?
Thank you, and through you, your worship. Staff have been in contact with that parish and that church in general. We have tried to connect them with neighboring businesses in the area to resolve parking conflicts as to provide them alternative sources. Also, we have mentioned and tried to persuade to use the available municipal parking lots, such as like our parking lots here, our side street parking where it is permitted, and the parking lot behind the post office. Staff have also been we've been working with Public Works Department to get increased signage in the area to add signage that explicitly states the no parking on that boulevard. And we've also been in conversation that it might end up in site plan or having, what is it called? Sorry. An increased parking space for disability parking, but that also has to be done through a process with infrastructure, I believe. Thank you, Ashley.
Any other business? Councillor Irwin.
Thank you, Your Worship. I've had some constituents share with me their concern that since we removed the electronic speeding sign on Queen Street coming south into Elsa Craig, speed has begun to increase. And I'm wondering if we're going to consider replacing that sign or putting a temporary sign back in place, because that is quite a busy road and traffic has started to increase again.
Jaden?
Through you, Your Worship. We're planning on bringing back another report to council. We look at doing this on a 6-month rotation approximately, just to keep you guys updated, or sorry, keep council updated on the data we're getting, and then suggesting new locations to keep rotating those signs around. So thank you for the comment, and we'll take that under consideration for the next report.
Okay. Any other business? I just have one, it's come out at the budget committee, and that is to, because we apply for a lot of grants, is to have it on paper, what grants we've all applied. That came up at committee because we're talking about, not everybody knows about all the grants. So just to increase communication, to have that come up. And that's just something about. Councillor Keel.
Can we also have an indicator as to what ones we have been successfully granted, just or for interest sake?
Yes, certainly what I could put on a regular basis is maybe every other meeting, what grants we've applied for and which ones, and on the list show which ones be successful. Certainly if we're successful one, I would immediately let council know anyway, but it'll go on the list as well.
Perfect, thank you.
Yeah, just so that everybody is aware. Okay, any other business? Seeing none, we'll move on. Deferred items. I don't think we have, we did talk about the surplus farm severance education. That we'd have that before a council meeting. We're not sure which council meeting yet.
Yes, I spoke to the planners today about that, Your Worship, and so they're suggesting coming to the planning meeting either in March or April, depending on availability, starting an hour early, starting the meeting at 5 with a educational session with council, the presentation and a time for questions prior to the regular meeting starting.
Okay. Communications, including county council, you've got the highlights in front of you. There has not been another meeting since that. We meet next Tuesday. Reading of the bylaws.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you, we have bylaws 6 to 10 of 2024 for first and second reading.
First and second. Councillor Canellison, Councillor Keel, all in favor? Carried.
And third and final, please.
Councillor Daigle, Deputy Mayor Hodgins, all in favor? Carried. Thank you. Need a motion to go into close, and that is for advice that is subject to client solicitor privilege, including communications necessary for that purpose. Winter maintenance contract. Moved by Councillor Nerda, seconded by Councillor Irwin, all in favor. Thank you. And I want to thank council for staying with this. I know it's a big agenda, and to staff as well, council and staff for going through this. So we'll move to closed. Yeah. We are back in open council. We have no report at this time coming out of council. At this time, I would just ask for move to adjourn. Councillor Nerda and Councillor Keel. All in favor? Carried. Thanks everyone very much.